All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday, November 4th. It is hard to believe that we are ready into the final months of 2021. And I am super excited because I am featuring today some amazing authors and friends that have co authored a book with me, Stop Waiting, Start Living, which is being released on November 17th through Amazon. So, the first author that you have an opportunity to meet today is a very good friend of mine, Victoria Malgener. And Victoria, I have known for, gosh, it's got to be going on close to 15 years. And we are really excited to be collaborating on so many projects together this year. So, Victoria, welcome to the show. And let's talk a little bit about what is your specialty? Like, what do you do for people? I know you do so many different great things, but what do you really love to focus in on to help support
Well,
people?
thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. So, for me, my passion is really about taking people to the fifth dimension, clearing the subconscious of old patterns, clearing the chakras so you can move ahead in your life. A chakra is an energy center. So, every time that you clear the past, you clear the subconscious and you open to the whole new world of peace and calm and joy. And there's a gateway that just opened. So, if everybody tunes in this morning, they will have a glimpse of this new world. So I clear people of all of their what I call boogies from the past to move forward to a new world. And we'll be doing an exercise today on opening the heart chakra because it's all about love. Without love, we have nothing.
Right. So what would you say is the one of the biggest reasons? I know you always say me. However, let's take me out of the equation. What is one of the reasons why you really jumped into this project and wanted to write a chapter for this book?
I think because it's getting the word out that when we stop worrying and start living, we can move forward. So either you're getting younger or older with your life. Either you stop yourself or you say, yes, let's go. So it's kind of like a horsey. You pull the reins and you go, ee, or you go, yes. And then the horses go ahead. So you're the horse and you're riding the horse and you have a chance to bring fruition to your life. I've had a lot of people who are passing over right now. So it's really a strong message. Do your life now. Don't stop. Keep moving and trust the process.
Where do you think that philosophy has been the biggest impact for you, Victoria? Like, where do you think that you said yes and it totally shifted the direction that you went into?
I think because I went through, the childhood was a bit iffy like all of us. And I think seeing my parents not succeed at the level they wanted was my inspiration to succeed because we all have family of origin issues. So the more that we can learn from our families and incorporating the shadow into all of us because you can't get away from your past. But if you can make use of it, and this is a big word, to make use of your past and let it be an impetus for you rather than a stopping point. Because, we all need help. And why not be positive? You don't want to die a creepy old person. You want to die happy because you don't want to have to come back and repeat this again. So I work with the angels and I work with God. And, the greatest person who's made the biggest influence on me, one of the greatest, is Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote The Four Agreements and Mastery of Love. To stop telling the lies to yourself, you're not okay. Stop telling things to yourself that you can't move forward. It's all about saying yes to life. And when you say yes, the curtains open, the waves open, and the angels can help you. But if you say no, nobody can come in and help you. So why not go for the gold? I like being an Olympian. I saw the torch, and we are the torch. And I touched the torch in Laguna Beach. So understanding what that torch means to us as Americans is a very important concept.
Well, it is. And and you talk about the light. And so like we all have that light shining within us. And it's really important to make sure that we're going ahead and sharing that light, around the world. I mean, would you not agree? I mean, we all have something, we all
Oh,
have a purpose. We all
yeah,
have something to bring to this world.
absolutely. And I think the more that you can connect at the soul level, you can tell when you look at someone, whether they look away or whether they look with you. and understanding that you're dissolving the layers, because you do become a light body. And that's what my book is about, called Entering the Fifth Dimension. So as you begin to do this, you have the capacity to move forward like a child of light and realize how great you really are. And when you claim that greatness, other people will resonate with you.
Well, and I know that we've collaborated on this book together, but you just showed you're entering the fifth dimension, and which I happen to have a copy of. I'm so blessed that I got a copy from you. But it's more than just a book. It's, to manifest and talk a little bit about how entering the fifth dimension, the book that you did, is really different than most books that are out there.
Well, it's a reality book. It's where you begin to. I took the vortexes of Sedona because I used to live there. So as you meditate upon a book, and I'll just kind of read a quote, I'll just turn to a page, and I transcend all problems and come home to my God self. I let go of all stress, knowing that I will have the confidence, strength, and determination to accomplish whatever my soul leads me to do. So each day, you work with the same. You work with the same affirmation for a month, and that opens up a chakra, which is an energy center. It clears the subconscious, and as you resonate with the mountains of Sedona, it transcends problems and it opens you. There's a whole new energy which just came in about 2 days ago, and it's people can tune into that and breathe. There's this incredible bliss that's available for us now. So all the stuff that's happening, just let it go and come home to the heart and soul of who you are. And if you do this, you will manifest your dreams. You will live the life that you want to have, and you'll have the ecstasy to live who you really are. We all have a purpose, as you said, and this purpose is to manifest your dreams. So that's what the book Stop Living and Start Living is about. Each author comes with that idea. We work together as a collective, and we work together to transform the world. And as you read this book, you'll have an opportunity to order it, become it, and know it. And that's really what my job is to take you to that new world. I work with people one-on-one. I'm an acupuncturist. So I lived in China, work with the hospitals, and I work with helping people. I can do the work over Zoom, or FaceTime. So as we work with this, we manifest our greatest hope, which is to become the beautiful soul who you are. Everything is a frequency. And if people understand frequency, when you walk into a room and it doesn't feel good, you want to leave. When it feels good, the doors open, the gates open, and you feel this incredible bliss. So I clear out houses, I clear out negativity, and I open. And we all have it. I mean, you can't get away from it. But the question is, how do you deal with it? And by suppressing it, causes cancer, causes all the problems that we have. And if people will learn to embrace the light and the dark, like the yin yang symbol, they'll be able to go into the light and bring in the angelic form. The heart is everything. And as you work with the heart, you work with bliss.
You do. And I think that, this is a great segue because I know that you want to take people through a heart chakra meditation, kind of
Mhm.
doing some clearing. So I think this would be the perfect time, Victoria, to go ahead and do that for anybody who is watching and listening in, that we can provide them for that free gift of what you're going to do today.
Yeah, we do that. And then people can also come here if they want to take a trip up to Sedona and work with their transformation. Because that's what my new work is about, is taking you to the new world, creating the new world, and moving forward. So let's begin this morning by taking a deep breath. And if you have an angel nearby, like I do, I keep her near me all the time. Feel yourself opening and putting your hands on the heart. And take a moment to breathe. And as you breathe, feel like you're opening this new world of peace and calm and joy. And feel that energy coming forward. This is the bridge to the new world. Each chakra holds this dimension. So you have an emotional heart, a physical heart, and a spiritual heart. So with this breathing in, feel like you're opening and just like a wings traveling like a bird, and just feeling like you're letting go of any negativity, any heartfelt issues, and you're coming home to that beautiful soul of who you are. And as you do this morning, Feel like you're just opening to this new world called life. And as you do this, feel the affirmation starting to open and say it with me at home. I choose to open my heart to the bliss of who I really am. I choose to open my soul. I choose to open my consciousness to transcend all problems. I become the light body of who I really am. And as I do this, I feel myself entering the peace and calm, feeling that energy opening, and feeling that which is the sound of the heart. Ah, ah, ah. And now stretching out, feel like you're just letting go. And in Chinese medicine, we talk about our feet on the ground and our head in the clouds. So there's 7 different chakras, and we're transcending all problems, opening up to the heavens, and feel that Christ consciousness coming into every particle of your being, and feel like you're becoming lighter and lighter. You're opening to this inner world, and the color is green. And feel that green of healing the past, healing the family of origin issues, healing relationship issues. And now putting your hands back on the heart. Feel that bliss of joy, that bliss of consciousness, that bliss of knowing. And as you do this today, you open to the figure of sight, sound, and color as we say yes to this inner sanctuary. This is the sanctuary of peace and calm. This is the golden room where the healing begins. You can do this morning and evening before you go to bed. You can do it in the morning when you wake up, and remembering your dreams to open to this new world. And this is a world where you're beginning to say, yes, I choose the life of joy. I am the life of joy. Joy is the emotion for the heart. As you say yes, feel the calm, feel the joy, and feel that inner knowing. And feel that permeating every cell and membrane of your body as you become lighter and lighter. And so it is. Amen. Take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to be in gratitude, saying, thank you, universe. I am blessed. I'm in gratitude. And conscious languaging becomes very important as we open this gateway. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. And Victoria, that was beautiful. And what a great way to start this summit with all of our authors, because anybody that was listening in, and of course, I didn't close my eyes just in case anything would go awry
Mm-hmm.
with technology. However, I felt that peace and that calmness come over me. And it's really just, I'm grateful. Thank you so much, because it set me up now for the rest of the day with all the amazing authors that are going to be on, as well as just feeling and feeling from my heart. And you're absolutely right. It's all about the joy. And you live with so much joy, Victoria. I think we're a lot alike in that fact that we do a lot. Like, what brings you a lot of joy in your world?
I think my friends, I think relating to my family, being outdoors, I go to the lake as much as I can, the mountains of Sedona, being quiet and going within, feeling this new energy that's here. It's like living in bliss. And I take people to that realm. So that's why if you want to come here for a weekend of bliss and joy, you can do that. You can connect with me. And I really live this. This is the last part of my life. So I want to live happy, be happy, and share happiness. And it's about friendships. It's about giving back as well as receiving. You know, the more we give, the more we get. And I think gratitude is my biggest word. And I like what somebody said the other day, being blessed and being in gratitude, because we're so fortunate right now to feel this new energy, to feel this new love. And you know, this book that we're coming out with is just such a perfect example of a collaboration, of working as a team in order to make this happen, because without all of us, nothing would have come about. So it's being willing to move forward to the next world and being willing to say, yes, I choose life, I choose happiness, and I choose peace of mind. And it's not walking away from your problems, but it's learning how to cope with your problems and transform them and transmute them, and asking yourself, What can I learn out of this experience? What can I give out of this experience? Because the more you give, the more you get. So why not start with a life of gratitude every day and start the morning with, what am I going to learn today? Who am I going to meet? You know, and that's such a turn on because we don't know who's at the other end of the street. You know, I am going through a major move because of finding a new place, and the help that I've had received never would have happened. But I'm going to take everyone out for dinner. I'm going to hire the moving crew so nobody has to lift heavy objects because I'm trying to save your life, not take it, you know? And if everybody came with this attitude, the world would be so much safer and so much more loving.
Well, and you bring up a really important point that I always like to remind people. If you don't ask, you don't get. And the other thing that I think is so key in what you talked about, Victoria, and why our book is going to be so amazing for our people is it's the collaboration.
Right.
Sometimes as women, I have found, growing up, that there was like this, not for everyone, but for me personally, this idea of competition among women.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when we collaborate, and I wasn't particular on the authors of the book, it could have been men and women. However, it was all women that were drawn to work on this project with us together. And it's the collaboration that has made it possible. All of us
Mm-hmm.
working together for a common good. And all of us share these stories of how we stopped waiting and started living in
Mm-hmm.
each of our own lives. And it's not only designed to be inspiring to people, but it's actually somewhat of a handbook, just
Mm-hmm.
like you talked about, where there'll be questions for individuals to reflect and journal about, because it's one thing to be inspired, but it's another thing to take action. So if you are watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, it's also being streamed on LinkedIn. We do have the ability to answer any questions if you are on either Facebook or YouTube. So if you do have any questions for Victoria or any of the upcoming authors, by all means, go ahead and post it in the comments section. And I will be able to see those questions and be able to ask Victoria anything that anyone wants to know out there to find out more about Victoria. So, Victoria, we have listed on the broadcast here your website and your phone number of how to contact
Mm-hmm.
you. What are some of the upcoming events that you have going on personally that you would like to share with people and give people the opportunity to connect with you on?
Well, I think I'd share several things. The first one is I teach Reiki, which is a healing tool, and I use that using that way to enter the fifth dimension because as we clear out the stuff, you become more and more who you really are. And as we do this, we step into mastership. It's available for everyone. You don't have to be special. It's just taking the step to say, I choose the next world. And I like the idea of in person when you're doing the Reiki training. You can learn online, but it's not the same. When you have that hands on procedure, and I work with Reiki through long distance healing, I ran my whole practice that way from Maui. So if anybody has an issue that they need cleared out, they can call me at 480-560-1454. And I clear out your blockages. I work with you. And all you have to do is lay there and receive it. And I've been working with people for a year and a half now through COVID, with people doing hypnosis, doing guided visualization. Because, as we work with our subconscious, we clear it, we open to mastership, and we open to leadership. And this is an exciting time where we're all living through. So I get bored of it, but it's here. So what the heck? Might as well do it, you know?
Right. Well, Victoria, you've done a lot in, I will say, your young life. And so where do you still see that you are headed? Like, what are some other dreams, goals that you have aspirations to complete yet on your journey?
Well, I think it's entering the 5D and the 7D. It's opening to Christ consciousness. Uh, and then when I choose to drop the body, to say I'm ready to go. So it's a living with that idea of mortality or immortality, but not to wait, but to take the advantage now. Now is the only time you have. So it's letting go of the past, letting go of the future, and being willing to step forward into who you really are. And if you own your power, you own your presence. And that is the idea that I will give the best that I can do this moment. I will do 150%. You and I started the day with a prayer to begin to bring peace to this whole conference because you are what you do. And it's not remembering what doesn't work, but it's remembering what does work. And I think knowing that is the key to success. You have 4 steps. The first one is saying yes. The second one is believing it. The third one is moving forward. And the fourth one, and the fifth one is to reflect on what you've done and to say thank you. Thank you is a big word, but to say it to yourself. How many of you really say thank you to this moment? Thank you for this. We rush from one thing to another to another. And it's not about that anymore. It's about slowing down, being present. And when you're looking at somebody, let go of your shopping list. Let go of the past, being totally there. Because people feel your presence. And if you're going to be here, be 150%. Being willing to take a risk, being willing to make mistakes like the bicycle, you fall off and you get back again. Who cares? The only person who cares is yourself. We all have too much going on now.
Right. Well, and you bring up that point. Sometimes we're so worried about what other people are going to think about us, and really
Mm-hmm.
they're in their own stuff. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
paying attention sometimes to, what is happening. And I love your idea of taking risk. I know that so many times people are, and myself included, have been fence sitters. Like, which is a painful place to be. You're not making a decision because you're in the what if. And I just believe in failing forward. It's like, I just always figure out ways that didn't work. Okay, that way didn't work. Like, let's go ahead and move forward and figure out a way that does. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
the only way that we're going to grow and learn is, like you said, by making those mistakes. Nobody,
Mm-hmm.
nobody gets out of this world like 100% perfect without making any mistakes. They're not mistakes, they're learning experiences, is
Well,
really how I look at it.
I like the story of Don Miguel. He passed over, he left, and his mother came after him at 98 and brought him back from the other side. So he said when he came back, how can you say no to your mother? So that one always cracks me up. And I feel like we're not done till we're done. And even when we're on the other side, it's a thin veil. You can talk to the loved ones. You can get pissed off at God. It's okay to be real. What's not okay is to be a people pleaser, to say yes when you really mean no, and to be not take on more than you can handle. I think that's one of the biggest things that we all are learning is that we can't do it all and we're human beings. So learning to take breaks, going to the lake, if you do a hard day, then go celebrate that night. It's all about timing and pacing.
Right. Right. And it's setting those limitations and boundaries sometimes that, like you said, saying no is okay. Like, no, I always say is a complete sentence. So,
Mm-hmm.
really, when you're thinking about saying yes, and I'm not talking about yes to life opportunities, I'm saying yes to sometimes those things that you feel like you need to do rather than you want to do or you get to do. And every time you say yes to one of those ideas, sometimes you're saying no to another priority in your life. So it's really,
Mm-hmm.
important to be cognizant. You've talked about Don Miguel. I know he's had a big influence on you. He's one of my favorite authors as well. His book, The Four Agreements, really has, left a lasting impression on me. But as you
Mm-hmm.
look at your life and you reflect on your life, Victoria, who do you think was one of your like biggest influences or had the biggest impact on you?
Um, I think, this is a funny question on how I'm going to answer it. I think it was my dad in some ways because in a way he failed, in a way he didn't. And what I mean by that is he did the best he could do. So it's acknowledging our parents and our lifeline because you are a product of the past as well as the future. And your line of history is who you came from, your genetic history. So when you understand that, family of origin becomes a big, big, big part of your life. And to realize your inner child is so important. Because if you don't let her play, you don't let her smile, she's going to get you one way or another. So it's better to have playtime and to take her to the zoo, to take her to the zoo lights. Have fun, because life before you know it is over with. So the question that I would ask people to look at is, how much fun am I having today? What am I going to incorporate this day? How much time do you spend looking at the cactus or the trees? The trees talk. Have you got a talking tree in front of your house? And spend time with that tree, because it will give you a lot of messages. Your roots are so important, and they go deep into the earth. So, getting a massage, this is the biggest year for self care. So, if you don't have the money, find a way to use it and to get it, because everything is always available, but you're number one. And if you don't start with that premise, you're going to miss out.
Right. Well, Victoria, we're getting close to wrapping up. I see our next author is waiting in the studio. However, is there anything else that you really want to share that's on your heart? Again, people can contact Victoria at victoriamalgener.com, or her phone number is 480-560-1454. One of the contributing authors to the book Stop Waiting, Start Living. And is there anything else, Victoria, that you would like to share before we end this time with you?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that I just love this thought: pay it forward. If somebody gives you something in the line, pass it on to somebody else and take care of somebody else. Always look where you can be of service, because it's through that gratitude opens your life. Now, I have a quick question for you. Can I stay on and watch the next person, or am I done
Well, I
afterwards?
can put you in the green room. You may be able to hear it.
That's fine.
Of course, we're all learning this new technology. So when you, and it looks like the next author is giving me the thumbs up. So when I put you back into the room, you'll be able to hear it. You just won't be able to see it.
Sounds like
So
a play acting job. And the other thing I'd like to just say before we close is thank you for who you are, Julie, for the friendship that we've displayed over the years, for including me in this opportunity, and for Katrina for allowing her to be the magnificent woman who she is, putting up with my non technology, because I'm not a technology genius. And the fact that you were willing to come down here yesterday to help me didn't have to happen, but we figured it out. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's been a pleasure to be here this morning.
well, you are welcome, Victoria. And again, that goes back to our idea of collaboration and supporting each other, because there should never be an opportunity, I guess, where, my next author, Victoria, is saying that you can see and hear in the green room.
Oh,
So
good.
that's exciting. So you'll be able to stay in the green room and you'll be able to see in there as well. So how exciting. See, we all learned something new about technology, because I decided to take the chance and use this new technology for today's broadcast. And we learn as we go. We're all self-taught. And Victoria, I just want to commend you again, because you faced the fear around using this new technology and you embraced it. So
Mm,
congratulations to you. Thank you again for being here today. And thank you for saying yes to the opportunity to collaborate and stop waiting, start living. So
amen,
thank
sister.
you, Victoria. People connect with Victoria, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, Victoria.
Thank you, Julie, for taking the time to include me.
You're welcome. Now I just have to, oh, I'm removing you. All right. Woohoo! All right, I got this figured out, people. Oh my gosh, like, I don't know, technology can be a challenge, right? So I am excited, and I am going to bring in my next author. Woohoo! Welcome, Wendy. She's the one that was so gracious to be chatting to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the chat going on to tell me what to expect. So Wendy has obviously used StreamYard before, and so I am super excited to have her here. So Wendy jumped on board as well when I asked, and said yes to the opportunity. And I met Wendy Shepard through a networking event. There are some people that just come into your lives that you connect with immediately. So, Wendy, welcome to the show and to the Author Summit. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hey, Julie, thank you so much for having me. You can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you perfectly. I hope
Awesome.
that the audience that's listening, I put my dogs in the back bedroom and I can hear them barking. So I hope nobody else can hear them.
I haven't
Hear
heard
them
them.
barking because they are not happy that they are not with mom. But I couldn't take the chance that they would be barking right next to me. So, oh my gosh. Well, Wendy, let's get started. Why don't we like share with everybody kind of your journey, like what brought you to this moment and how you help and support individuals as well, because your journey is absolutely amazing as well. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Julie. So my journey. Wow. Okay. So had a hard upbringing, a hard childhood, abuse issues and whatnot. I had a history of anorexia and bulimia, and kind of all of that led me to graduate with bachelor's degree first off, and then get my master's degree in social work so that I could help people, specifically women with eating disorders, because I had been through that. And I was actually able to realize that dream. Had a private practice for many years, helping women, mainly women with eating disorders, some outliers here and there, but and obviously there's a lot of trauma that's involved in all of that. And that all kind of came crashing down when my son's father sued me for custody. And it was at that point that I realized that my problems in my little world were, way more important than anybody else's were. And I didn't feel like I could be really helpful to other people with their own problems when I was, suffering so much with my own. And so I shut my practice down. And for me, the custody battle was, it's kind of like living in a fishbowl. It's like everything is magnified. You don't know like who to trust, what, words and things that you do are going to get out and, be twisted around and stuff like that. And I really went underground, like literally found a huge rock and I crawled right underneath it. And I was quite happy underneath my rock for many, many years. I had a lot of difficulty interacting socially with people. The custody battle was a really protracted 6-year battle. It was really devastating for me, certainly devastating for my child. And so I kind of lived under this rock because I just didn't know who I could trust. And I really stayed under that rock for many, many years until I was kind of forced out of it when my wife was transferred to live in Canada. We lived in Toronto, Canada for 3 years. And I joked to everybody when they were like, "Oh my God, you're moving to another country." And I was like, "No, no, no, I'm taking my rock with me. I'm good." Right? Like, it's okay. The rock's going to come. I'm just going to transfer it to another country and I'll just kind of poke my head out every now and then. And I literally like did that. And what I found so we lived in Toronto, which is a huge city. I live outside of Philadelphia, and basically my entire life has been spent like within a 12-mile radius of where I'm sitting right now, pretty much my whole life. And none of that touched the city of Philadelphia. So in the suburbs. So moving to Toronto for me was really, really traumatizing. And given all of the like abuse and all that kind of trauma in my background, I already was predisposed to lots of anxiety, lots of panic, lots of fear. Well, I mean, I took my rock to Canada, for God's sake, right? I was terrified of the world. And so fear was really like present in my life. And it was no different up in Toronto. And Toronto to me was like, it was like living in a different world. We lived downtown and there were lots of people around and lots of stuff going on, lots of noise and all this stuff. And every single day for the first 5 months straight, no joke, I woke up with anxiety. I went to bed with anxiety. And every single day I had panic attacks. Sometimes they were mild, sometimes they were moderate, sometimes they were severe. And it was like that literally every single day for 5 months. And I mean, as you can imagine, it's really hard to live that way. And then I found singing. Some neighbors knew that I loved to sing, and that singing kind of was like my place, like my happy place. It was the place I went to when I was sad or upset or overwhelmed or angry. And I could just sing my heart out and feel better. So I was looking for a singing group, and my neighbors, told me about a singing group, and I went. This is about 5 months into living in Toronto, and I went and I sang with this group this one night, and the next morning I woke up and it was like no anxiety. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so I used singing to it was really just a Band-Aid. It was the thing that got me through. So every week I would sing and it would manage my anxiety. But it was always lurking there under the surface. Like I hadn't taken care of, like, what was really going on. It was just like putting a Band-Aid on every week, and I know this because if I went longer than a week, the anxiety would come back, like, I would still wake up and whatever. So, that went on, for a couple of years, and we decided to stay in Toronto for a 3rd year. So, beginning of 2020, I had been working and just circumstances, I had I was at the time not working and I was feeling really lost. And so I sat down with a friend and we were talking. He's a life coach and he was talking to me about this fear challenge that he was doing. He explained to me what it was and how to do it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do this too. I'll do the fear challenge. I have a lot of fear in my life, and we were focused. Both of us were focused on our fear of heights. And so I did this fear challenge, and like all of my fear went away. Like I'd focused on heights, but it kind of it permeated like all the other aspects of my life. And all of a sudden, I realized like I hadn't been living for all these years. I had allowed fear to literally dictate every single thing that I did in my life, like those band-aids, the singing, all the other things that I did in the city to manage, the fears of living in the city. But doing this fear challenge took that fear away, and it was like the green on the, it was like, oh, that's what green is. Oh my God. Or that's what blue is. Like I was looking at things in a totally new light and realized I had built my entire life around avoiding the feeling of fear. And what doing the fear challenge taught me was fear wasn't going to kill me. And so my world opened up, and all of a sudden, things like the method that I use now with other people to help them get through blocks in their lives. That method came into my life, and I started studying that. Went through a certification program and other sort of modalities in helping people move through their mindset blocks. I'm a mindset transformation coach now. I was able and open to those things coming into my life because I had moved past all of this fear. And so I've done, a lot of studying and education, and the tools that I use, I've used them on myself, because while doing the fear challenge took care of sort of that intense fear that I had built my life around, obviously there were other things in my life that kept me from really living, that kept me from doing the things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And so I used the tools that I was getting trained in to help me move past all of my blocks, and now I use those tools to help other people.
Well, thank you. And I really believe that that's probably why the authors that came together for this book, who are all really personal friends of mine, is that we all walk the walk and talk the talk. It's really challenging for any of us if we're, out there. We heard the saying as we grew up, do as I say, not as I do, right? And that just doesn't work for people. It's like, it's so out of integrity. And I really think that when you are aligned with, giving information and supporting other people in what's worked for you, it really helps. Because here's the bottom line: the subconscious really doesn't know if you're talking to someone else. So I tell people, in full transparency, when I'm talking to them or I'm coaching them on a topic, I'm really talking to myself, because it's a lesson that I need to learn and I need to hear as well too. So it's, so key. So how would you say, because because I don't want it to, like, get too much into the book, because we want people to buy the book on November 17th. But, like, how would you say, and you touched upon it a little bit, but how would you say that knowing now this technique has really impacted your life? Like, what are you saying yes to more?
So I'm saying yes. Well, okay, so that's interesting. I wanted to say I'm saying yes to everything because energetically I'm open to saying yes to everything. But that's not actually true. I'm saying yes to the things that are in alignment with me. And so um, I'm really, life is about choices, right? Like we have choice. And how do you decide what choice you're going to make when you have multiple choices that you could you could choose in the moment, right? And so for me, it's about, is this choice something that feels light, or is this a choice that feels heavy? And so what these tools have opened up for me is, first of all, the ability to see that I have a number of choices, because I feel like a lot of times when I was really stuck in that fear mode, it was like the only thing that I could choose was the thing that wouldn't create fear, wouldn't create that feeling, right? So there was only really one choice to make. And now it's opened me up to a number of different possibilities. And now I look at the possibilities, at the choices that I can make in the moment, and say, okay, what feels light? What feels heavy? And I really depend on that particular tool a lot, because I think that I know that we all have the ability inside of us to know what direction we need to be going, like what direction is really in alignment with who we are. I just think that we let this thing, our head and our overthinking brain, to really get in the way. And when we can slow that down, that monkey mind, and let that just chill out and really tune in to our body, we know what is in alignment with who we are. But here's the awesome thing about that, is just because I make a decision right now doesn't mean I can't make a different decision 10 seconds from now. So if I decide right now that I want tea, and I go and I put the kettle on, right? The kettle takes a little while for the water to boil, whatever. Maybe I even get my cup ready with it, and all that. Well, once that water is boiled and I pour the tea, I can decide now that I don't want to drink it, right? Like, so we're not locked into every single decision that we make, because the universe is willing and able to provide us with all kinds of options all the time. So just because I decided 3 minutes ago that I wanted tea doesn't mean that I have to follow through on that choice. I can make a different decision now.
Yeah, you're right. And it's like everything, and I just had as I was, getting ready for today, I always think that, conversations or topics come your way that are like a reoccurring theme. And,
Mhm.
I had this conversation with a really good friend of mine this morning who happens to be launching a book in several weeks as well. And, we talked about, she shared with me that she was struggling because she felt like a lot of things that have gone wrong this year were things that her intuition was telling her to do one way, and she went the opposite way.
Mhm.
And I think so many times for all of us, it's really tuning into that. Like, to be in alignment. And I know that when I know I've done this. Like, you get that little, like maybe hair is standing up on the back of your head or something is happening and you're like, I don't know if this is such a good idea, but I'm going for it, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, hindsight's 2020. There's a reason why my intuition was telling me that maybe this wasn't the direction to go. But as Victoria and I talked about previously, there's no mistakes. They're life lessons. Like
Yep.
sometimes we have to have those in order to be able to continue to move forward on our journey. And so what is like most exciting to you about, being in collaboration with this book? Was there any fear around the book in being in the book that you got past, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been using my tools. That rock I told you about, the rock that I moved from Philadelphia to Toronto. And I'd like to think that I left that rock in Toronto and it's, never to be seen or heard from again. But there's still a little part of me that is afraid to be seen. That rock was, metaphorically speaking, obviously was the thing that like sheltered me from the outside world. It was the thing that kept me from being seen, because being seen was like used against me, right? So there's still that little piece of me that is afraid to be seen. So for sure I had some fear. And so I guess for me, and the other thing too is I've been told forever to write my book. Um, and that's always, that seed has been planted in me from a bunch of other people who've heard my life story and they're like, oh my God, you really need to write a book. This for me is kind of like that stepping stone. And I know that you and I have talked about this and a little bit about my story and whatever. And I've told you, like, I've got this whole book inside of me. So I feel like this is for me a step in that direction, that eventually, I will get there. And it's also that kind of like, well, coming out party. Okay, I'm gay, right? Like, so coming out of the closet, right? Like, this is a little bit of that, like coming out from underneath that rock and allowing the world to see me. So that's exciting for me, for my own, personal growth, part of it. And then, I'm also really excited by what other people will gain from, reading this book, from reading not just, one person's point of view, which is extremely valuable. And I'm not putting that down at all. But, there's also something to be said for, like you've talked about, the themes of things that you've been talking about with people lately, right? Like there are themes that will weave throughout each of the stories, but not just from one person's point of view. And this is why we tend to need to hear the same information over and over again, because even if it's from the same person, but even more impactfully, I think from multiple people, is because there's just a way that something is said slightly differently that will hit us. And so that's why I love the compilation piece of it, is that that people will be able to read things and not just hearing it from one person's point of view, that may be even more impactful to their lives. And so that's really exciting to me, is what people who are reading the book can get out of it.
Well, it's so funny because like as you were talking again, like, like how things kind of hit you square, between the eyes. And I've always said, like when I'm coaching people, sometimes you need to hear things 7 different ways from 7 different people, right? Well, it just so happens that there are 7 amazing authors in this compilation book. So like since I've been saying 7 for years, it's no wonder that there's 7 of us that
Mm,
are in this book to make that impact and to make that difference. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, we all have a different perception on things, but what the book will do is that it's going to show people how we're all united in our stories and our journey. Like our
mm,
stories, they're not who we are, they don't define us, but they're part of us. And it's like and that uniqueness is what all brings us together. And the key thing that we decided to do with the book as well is not just make it a book that you read and then like you're inspired, but then what? Or like, oh, this is great, I want to take action, then what? So there's going to be questions at the end of each chapter from each author to really help people to do some journaling and some reflecting. Because I think that like for me, I know personally, sometimes that's what I don't do. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea, or this is something that I want to implement. And then I don't take the time for myself to really reflect upon that. So with the timing of the book, it's going to be perfect, in my opinion, of course, is that because when it comes out on November 17th on Amazon, it's going to give people the opportunity to be able to take it. And now you've got 6 weeks until 2022. Like, how do we start to implement this? And how do we make 2022 look different?
Yeah.
You know, do you have like anything that you're thinking about already, Wendy, that 2022 is going to look, God, that's such a mouthful, 2022, that you're going to, make look a little bit different, or some dreams, aspirations that you're already thinking about that you want to do?
Well, I'd really like to travel again, because that's kind of been on hold for quite a while. Yeah, but certainly business-wise, one of my goals is to, rather than reaching people one-to-one, I'd rather reach people one-to-many to impact more people. Eventually, I would love to be able to start a foundation and whatnot. So my goals for 2022 really are around creating more of an impact for more people than just little old me can do on a one-on-one basis. So that's my biggest goal for 2022. But and I say goal, so let me, and this is one of the things that I wanted to no, thank you. Sorry. That was my son checking in to see if he can make a whole lot of noise in the background. And I saw him go like this, and I'm like, no. Sorry. So one of the things that I wanted to say about goals and goal setting is I really hate the word, because a goal is like a fixed thing that we set, and like, if we hit it, yay, we're good. If we don't, oh, we're bad, right? Like it feels too fixed to me. I would prefer that people think about it as a target. Like it's, and I don't know why, because I'm not a hunter, but I don't know why these metaphors like always come to me, right? But like thinking of the animal as the target, where it's like constantly moving, and you have to keep like readjusting. And I would prefer that people think about, what they want to accomplish as more of targets, because as things come up, roadblocks may get thrown in front of us, and a target is easier to readjust to than that goal. Like that goal is that fixed thing. And so I'd rather people say, okay, well, I have to adjust because I got to go around. And so my target is just, it's a flexible kind of thing. And so I would hope that people can think of their goals for 2022 as more of targets, so that we're not automatically in our heads going, yay, I'm good because I hit it, or oh, I'm bad because I didn't.
Well, see, you were just doing the thumbs up, thumbs down in preparation for what you were going to talk about when your son walked in, right? Because honestly, it is one of those things where I told my husband, I'm like, listen, I am broadcasting today from 11 to 2. I need the house, quiet.
Cool.
And then I think the dogs have finally quieted down after almost like an hour of barking. So they must have barked themselves.
I forgot to tell him, my bad. Sorry about that. I did unplug my phone though, so that my phone wouldn't ring, my house phone. I did.
Well, I know, and it's like everything. It always seems that when you're in the middle of something, like everybody and their brother needs to get like a hold of you.
Right.
Yeah, and I put my phone on do not disturb, and I turned off all my dingers because I didn't want things like dinging at me as I was, doing this broadcast. So your website is, on here, she-vibes-higher.com. So is there anything that is that the best way for people to connect with you, to find out more about you, kind of share a little bit about what you offer for people and the best ways for them to connect?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, that is the best way to get a hold of me. And you can feel free to, and it is on my website, schedule a 45-minute free consultation with me. We can work through some of your blocks in that amount of time. That's the other really cool thing about what I do too, which I love so much, especially as compared to working with people in therapy, is what I do can be done super quick. And so, I can help you move through blocks in a short amount of time. Or if you just want to chat about, what you're going through. And then I also have a free download, Hidden Habits That Are Holding Us Back. And these are not the typical lists of things that hold people back that you see, published on the internet. These are more like deeper things that I go into that really are the things kind of at our core that are holding us back. So it's not just like the surface things like stop procrastinating or, give more time to yourself. That's not what the list is about. So you can find all of that on the website for sure.
Well, that's an amazing offer. And, thank you. And for those of you listening or listening in later on, because we are doing this live broadcast. And again, with all the technology, I'm still figuring out, like making sure that I'm on top of everything. So if you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm like trying to figure all my stuff out, right? But I do know that if you are watching this through Facebook Live or through YouTube, you're able to post comments and then or ask questions, and I'm able to ask the authors that so that they are able to go ahead and comment. We're also broadcasting through LinkedIn, and of course all the stuff is going to be there for people to follow up later on. And so an amazing opportunity, 45 minutes. That's quite the gift for people to take advantage of. And so connect with Wendy. She is absolutely amazing. And every time we have a conversation, it's like one of those times like you feel like you know her and you could be talking for hours and hours on end. So Wendy, our time together is growing near, and I'm waiting for the next author to, of course, jump on. But is there anything else that's really on your heart or anything that you want to share with people before we finish up your segment of the Stop Waiting, Start Living?
So I think one of the things that had come up earlier that I was going to say, and we went in a different direction, is, what I love about the work that I've found now as compared to working in therapy and a lot of what is taught in school is I always felt like there was something that was missing when I was in school and learning how to counsel people and whatnot. And I now understand what it is. We're always taught to focus on the problem, and what we focus on expands. It gets bigger. And so when when I was working with people with mainly women with eating disorders in therapy, we were focused on the problem. Whether it was the food or whether it was the body image or the thing, right? And we were just, we'd get out our shovels, we'd dig it up and we'd be like, ooh, look at this, how's it affecting us today? And oh, how can we, and we were always looking at, all we did was make it super big. Stop focusing on the problems. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. Just focus on what it is you want to create. What do you want to create in your life? Focus on that. Make that big. All of the things that you want to create in your life. Please stop focusing on the problems.
You know what? That is so key because, and if anybody has ever done anything with the law of attraction or, any kind of, arena around that, it is like, to think is to create. And so what you are focused on, you just continue to bring more into. So it's like anything sometimes when you're talking around like money mindset and or any of that kind of stuff, which our next author has a background in money and like that mindset arena. It's kind of one of those things like if you're focused on your bills and like how am I going to pay for my bills, you're getting more bills. But like if you focus in on, and I know sometimes for people who may be listening, oh, this is kind of woo woo. It's really not. It's really not. Like, I mean, you set that intention and you think about, like, I've done that. Like, okay, I'm like money is flowing towards me. And then all of a sudden it's like crazy how I will have all these like, like unexpected money, unexpected checks. People come out of the blue and I'm like, oh, I think we owe you money. Like, money that's like been owed for years. All of a sudden it's like, hey, they're going to pay me. I'm like, how awesome, how awesome is that? So, yeah, again, to think is to create. And, and the other one that I always talk about is what you resist persists.
Yep.
So, like if you're,
focused on the problem, making it bigger. It's the same. Yeah.
It really is. Well, I may have to like text her, focus in on my next author. This might be an ideal time for if you are tuning in live, because I know that, from 11 to 2 is a long time without maybe sometimes like a bathroom break or a food break or whatever it is. So this might be an awesome opportunity to go ahead and, take that break as we wait for our next amazing author. Wendy, I am in just such gratitude for you saying yes. Didn't take you long to say yes to the opportunity of collaborating on this book. Again, our book, Stop Waiting, Start Living, comes out on November 17th, and it'll be available on Amazon. And perfect timing, because I see my next author is jumping on. So this will be perfect. And I just want to again, make sure that anybody who just resonated with Wendy and what she had to share today connects with her, because I promise you it will be worth your time and, the energy that you stick into it. So Wendy, thank you again so much for being here today.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for letting me be a part of this project.
You are so welcome. All right. Well, I'm going to bring in my next author. And I think I got this figured out. I don't know about
I can do it.
Stream. There we go. All right, Wendy, we'll see you later. All right, so I'm excited because we're going to be bringing in our next author, and I already just touched upon it and talking about money mindset. So without further ado, let me add her to the stream. There she is. Woo-hoo! Susan Glusica, welcome. I'm so grateful that you are here.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. What I love about Susan, and Susan is so awesome, is that it was only about maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago that she said yes to the opportunity to collaborate and be part of the book, Stop Waiting, Start Living, which of course we've been talking about, releases on November 17th on Amazon. Susan, what was the premise behind saying yes to the opportunity?
Well, as you can see, I've got a few books under my belt already. And what seems to happen is every time I decide to write my own book, a collab opportunity comes to the table. And through my marketing coach, Katrina Sawa, who is helping you on the publishing and editing side, Katrina said, hey, I know that somebody's writing a collab book. Do you want to go to, I know she's still looking for authors. And I said, sure, I'll explore it, and said yes pretty quickly, just because that works for me. I do a chapter and that kind of launches me into my next book for my own book. So it helps to be a multi-time international bestseller. And also I love supporting my colleagues such as you, Julie, in terms of getting more of our messages out there. It's very important. I remember the first one that I wrote was like so hard to write. And so if I can encourage people by sharing more of my own story, then that's a benefit and a bonus as well.
Well, it is. And, that is also an inspiration for other people that may be on the fence about, writing their own book, that they say, oh my gosh, look at Susan, she's, I see all your books behind you. I mean, how exciting. And I am so excited to hear that, like you'll have your own book. And, when you have this amazing tribe of people who collaborate and support you, we'll all be running to the door as well to read your entire book. So, Susan, why don't you share with everyone who is listening in today and who may be listening in the future, like a little bit more about you. I know you have an amazing journey as well. So go ahead, and the floor is yours. You can talk about whatever it is that you want and then what brought you to this point.
Great. And my eyes are being a little sensitive to lights. I've been on video like all day, so pardon me. So yeah, really what happened is I cut my teeth on Wall Street back in the day, and 20 years in, I had a crisis of legacy. And really what that means is that I couldn't see my footprint. I don't have my own kids. My legacy is how I express myself in the world. And I really wasn't, my soul was not fulfilled with what I was doing at the time. I had followed in my mother's footsteps, not knowing any other way to make money. I did what she did and found myself, making great money, working with great people, but not really being fulfilled. And so that started me on an interesting journey. And I asked a bunch of people, including my own financial advisor, well, what if you were me, what would you do? And God bless Joe, because the rest is history and it's all his fault. He said to me, well, education runs in your family. So why don't you just do what runs in your blood and do what I do as a financial advisor? What he did was highly educational. And I said, well, I would never have thought of myself to do that, right? And I said, sure, I trusted he saw something in me that I did not. And I said yes to that and kicked the tires and discovered that, and this is why I left the corporate cubicle side of the financial industry and went to the client-facing side, because planning sets me on fire. And I thought I had discovered what I was built to do. Now, there were some challenges in there. And although I had been a client of that planning methodology for 10 years prior to actually bringing it to other families, I did not make it a priority to save 20% of my income, which is one of our planning methodology tenets. What happened was my income went from corporate over the entrepreneurial income cliff. I had some assets that I had, earmarked for that event, as it were. However, I wasn't able to replace my corporate salary quickly enough. And then we had a family medical situation and ultimately wound up declaring bankruptcy, which the majority of bankruptcies are from medical occurrences. It doesn't mean they're not filled with the same level of shame and regret and embarrassment and all of that, which one has to process, right? And almost like a phoenix rising out of the ashes, there's no other way to go but up from there. However, I soon found myself selling jewelry to afford groceries. Yes. And one of my cars was repossessed, right? Been through the ringer and didn't want anybody else to go there through that same ringer. So I said, there has to be a better way of attracting money, of, getting money in the bank, right? And I knew from experience that, it's either commission breath or fear and desperation. Like that's the energy. Like if you need to make a sale, right? Like, facing bankruptcy, you can imagine the desperation I had when I was like out there serving my clients, right? But I didn't recognize it as a disconnect in terms of the amount of, income and impact that I wanted to have and make in the world. So fast forward to summer of 2018, I made a signature discovery that there are these 7 energetic levels of money consciousness. And people are like, well, what's that? So here I was reading this book. Again, the beauty of people sharing their messages in books, right? This was essential to my signature discovery. So, and, remember, I've had decades of experience, both in the corporate side and the client-facing side, in the financial world and working with money and understanding how money works and all of that. However, this book called Power versus Force by Sir David Hawkins connected me to the idea that, we actually embody frequencies and they are connected to different states of consciousness, meaning it's a different state of mind. The example I love to use is, think of when you're in love, right? You're in love. Nothing touches you. The world is your oyster, right? Think of how good you feel, like you're walking on cloud 9. everyone looks good. Everything comes out great. Right? There's not a bad thing in your life when you're in love. That's like true, right? Why? Because we're vibrating at the vibrational frequency of love, which, if you believe Sir David Hawkins in his book, can be calibrated on a scale of 0 to 1,000 at 500. Now, it's not a linear, it's actually exponential. So the higher up you go, the energy gets bigger and more expansive, right? This made total sense to me. And I said, as I was reading his book for the second time, oh my goodness, this is exactly how money energy works. Think of it. So when I was in my dire financial days, right, I know that I was in the first level of what I call the money realities, okay? There was not enough money. I know that I had lots of fear in my system, lots of stomach knots anytime I thought of money, about paying bills, about having enough money to pay bills, let alone groceries, all that stuff, right? And that was my reality at the time. That was my financial frequency at the time. And so what happened is I was just attracting more deficiency in money. So there's always only abundance. What do I mean by that? You either have an abundance of money or you have an abundance of bills, right? We don't think of it that way, right? But when you start thinking about it that way, you realize, oh, that's a universal truth with a capital T, right? There's only abundance. The human mind tells you otherwise, right? So our humanness will tell us otherwise, but truly, when you think about it, oh, there's only abundance, right? So I didn't have an abundance of money. I had an abundance of bills, right? That's a deficient money situation, right? That's the first level. And as you go upwards in these money reality levels, there is number 5 is loving money. And so it is you can think of it as this, because it's not over or under. It's like they're not better or worse than levels. They just are each level, right? So, and whatever you're vibrating is going to attract that level of money to your life, okay? So like when we're in love, we feel so good and nothing bothers us because we're not vibrating at those other frequencies. We're vibrating in love, which is a specific frequency that in money terms is going to attract abundance of money, because we love money. We love what we can do with money. We love what money can stand for. Good people do more good with more money, right? So when we love money, it's not the love of money. We love money as the energy that it expresses, allows us to be, do, and have in our life. We don't want the money, paper, and coin. We want what that money allows us to be, do, and have in our life, right?
Well, absolutely. And it's so funny because when you go back and maybe watch like some of the other authors, you will see that like it came up, like, while I was waiting for you to come, Wendy and I started talking about that idea, of like not focusing on the problem, focusing in on the solution. And, and I said that exact thing. Like if you're focused in on your bills, you're going to get more bills. And if you're focused in on the money and the abundance, well, that's what's going to come to you. And I love this idea, of like where you're vibrating, right? Because I think of some days, like, okay, for instance, let's talk about, you walk out to my car right now and I have a flat tire. Okay. Is it a bad moment or a bad day? Now, if I'm going to be focused in on it being a bad day, what's going to happen? Like every other negative thing that could happen is going to happen. And I'm going to be like, oh my God, this was like the worst day ever. But if I look at it and say, okay, well, it happened and maybe it prevented me from getting into an accident or something else, I'm like, turn it around. Well, then of course, like I can make or I can break my day, like anything. And it doesn't happen overnight. I always tell people it's not like it's all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, right? However, you've got to implement some of this stuff. And because this didn't happen for you overnight. Think about it. You said you spent 20 years, in Wall Street. You didn't put away your 20%. And what happened? So it was that life lesson that shifted you and said, okay, well, what can I do now? Because you got to walk the walk and talk the talk as you're supporting other people, correct?
Yep. Well, and I have a funny story speaking about the unpreferred circumstance of a flat tire. I have the real life example is that, and this was, I had a car that was beyond the car payments. And I used to call it my moneymaker because it was this little green Ford Fiesta that was great on gas, like 40 miles to the gallon, like crazy, right? And I used to joke that it was like my moneymaker, right? Because it was saving me so much money, right? Well, one day I go down and I had to go somewhere and it wouldn't start. And, it was getting towards the end of its life. We knew that, but not yet, please. Right. And my husband had a totally different reaction. He was like, oh no. Right. Like probably the engine went or something. And I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. It's all good. Right. Like, and I was expressing gratitude, right? That it didn't happen. It happened right out of my garage. It didn't happen when I was like, it didn't strand me on the road down somewhere. Right. It didn't happen when I needed to come back home, which would have been frustrating for the both of us. Right. Here I was home, and he was there. Right. So I had a resource. Right. So I was very grateful. I had like at least 3 or 5 reasons that I could be grateful in the moment for that. And when right. So the 7th money level is called enlightened gratitude. Why? Gratitude is the highest vibrational frequency we can embody. So it's the quantum leap pro tip that I share whenever I have the opportunity, that if you want to shift anything about money in your world, just shift into gratitude and do that as often as possible. And over time, it will become your mode of being, right? And being, capital B, capital E.
Absolutely. And you're so right. And it's, again, if you've been watching or listening to the broadcast from the beginning, or if you listen to this later on, there's been a common theme throughout this, so far, and it is around gratitude. Now, it just so happens we're in the month of November and everybody's thinking about gratitude, but it's not just a November thing. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this for a couple of days and then forget about it. One of the most powerful books that I read and was introduced to, The Magic of Gratitude, and really implementing those exercises. And it just really helps you, which I know that you do as well, Susan. It's like sometimes we start off being in such gratitude for the big things, like having a roof over our head or having a working vehicle or those kinds of things. But then it's like narrowing it down to the small things to be grateful for. And even when those things happen, like you talked about, the car not working, that you're in gratitude for that because of where it took you and where you're at. And so I think that that's really, really, really important, to be implementing gratitude every single day. Like I always say, I'm in gratitude that I woke up 6 feet above ground, then 6 feet below ground. And I am 6 foot tall. In fact, I have this great standing desk now. So I love, that I'm standing. I feel like I'm totally in my power, and then I go to bed at night, being in gratitude again, like reflecting on the day and just being in gratitude for everything, that happened. So, you've talked a lot about great things. And, and I did not know too, so we have that in common. I do not have children either. And so this whole idea of legacy and kind of leaving that impact. Do you want to touch a little bit more upon that? Like every day, like waking up and being like, okay, this is what I'm leaving behind.
Yeah. And you can have impact, you can have quality, or you can have quantity, you can have both, right? It's up to you. So I just walked a client through the 7 steps to having the money that you want, right? And the first one is knowing what your desired outcome is. What do you want? So in legacy terms, what do you want your legacy to be? I've done this exercise many times. The first time it'll blow your mind and be like actually a point of resistance. But the more you do it, the more you kind of become friends with the concept. The concept is the exercise is to write your own obituary. What is it that you want people to say once you've gone to the other side, right? About you, about your life, about your impact, about what kind of friend or person you were, right? Like how did you express yourself when you were on the face of the earth, right? And to start to think now, I have two businesses, and in the other one, I talk about money and death all the time, because a big part of what I do there is life insurance, right? So I talk, coming from a family that didn't talk about money, God forbid the mortality of our family, right? Like, I talk about it every single day, all day long, right? Because death is the only guarantee, truly, right? So, and we're just built that we don't like to face our mortality. It's just our humanness, right? Which is cool. That's fine. However, when we do face it and we get clear and humble in the face of we don't know what that date is, but it's out there somewhere, right? Well, what is it that we want to happen before that day comes, truly? It really puts a different perspective on how you spend the 168 hours we all get every week. And actually, that leads me to why I was moved to write the chapter in the book about how do you get the most out of your time so that you're making the biggest impact that you can while you're here, right? And that's for everybody to define for themselves. For me personally, initially, my legacy was helping people create their legacies in terms of money or wealth transfer, or taking care of their family in case something happened, or right. And ultimately creating plans that give people more money, more confidently, for longer, especially women, right? Because we outlive our guys. Then it turned into really education, like sharing the knowledge that no matter how dire you think your money situation is, right, it can change. I'm living proof. In very short time, right, like in 3 years, within 3 years, we went from, just kind of making it by to we have tons of overflow and surplus, and we are so grateful for it, right? And we do great works out in the world through that surplus and overflow. So that's part of the legacy. The other piece is, educating people. I want to be known for raising the money consciousness of the world for prosperity for all. That's my mission.
Well, and I love that. And it's when you were talking about the whole obituary exercise, I just recently did that, and talk about a powerful exercise. It's really like when you're writing it, and it was very emotional, like very, very emotional. And I think the reason that I got so emotional around it is that in writing it, I realized the impact that I've already had. And that, sure, that there's still a lot of work to do. But again, if I didn't wake up tomorrow or whatever the situation is, like, I know I've made a difference, and I know I've made an impact. And I think that that is such an important exercise sometimes for people to set aside. Again, like we're sometimes so wrapped up in the day to day, and I love to live moment by moment, kind of thing. And yes, we do think about the future. I don't worry about the future, but it's like, to stop and take those moments to reflect. And, as I've mentioned earlier with some of the other authors, that's kind of the reason too behind what we did with the book, is to ask those reflecting questions at the end of each chapter. Because it's great to read a book and be like, oh my God, I'm inspired. Like, I need to do this. Whatever it is. But like, how are you going to shift things? Because I really want that to be the point. Not that it takes something big or tragic or whatever it is to get you to shift, that you can start to be proactive. And so, I have your website on here, but as people are looking to connect with you, like, what is offered on your website? Is that the best way to connect with you? Kind of talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so on my website, I have blog articles, if you want to get to know my philosophy a little bit better, because, most people here won't know me until they do that little extra research. That's cool. That's what it's there for. I do have a free gift. It's the 7 prosperity keys to bring in more money with ease. If that is something you would like to get, that's available on my website. There's also an opportunity if you're so inspired, intrigued, and moved to have a 20-minute call with me because you want more clarity for your money, that's there too. It's called an expansion consult. So there's a variety of ways. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn in my financial professional profile there. So there's multiple ways to get on my email list or have a conversation with me or just consume, my content beyond the chapter in the book. And I have to say, Julie, I know you are all about, get shit done, right? That is, and when people galvanize around that, right? Like, it's just a decision. I was just sharing Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with someone, right? That's how I do one of the least preferred activities, which I don't have my own kids, obviously. I said that before, but I do have fur babies, which I know we share, right? However, one of them is the one we're left with right now is a cat who thinks he's a dog, but he still uses the litter box, right? And it's up to me to change it. My least preferred activity, I use Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to just go and do it every week that I do it, right?
Well, it's so funny because when, I reviewed, like your chapter for submission, into the book, I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language. Because like one of the things that I always talk about is how to be more productive without being busy, as I call it, and without losing your sanity. And that's really, the premise behind, my coaching platform, the Get Shit Done. It's that we all want to have this amazing, amazing life, right? And sometimes we're so caught up in the have tos, and like to really focus on, what is it that I get to do? And to be a little bit more focused in on that. So your chapter, I was like, yes, there was no coincidence or no accident that Katrina said, yes, Susan, you need to check out Julie, because our mindsets are so much, alike with what we want to be able to do to inspire people to live that best life. I mean, that's really.
And to empower them, right? And my approach is more of a, 90% energy, 10% action. And how do you get very efficient with that action? So I run 2 businesses on 40 hours or less a week. And that's what I show people how to do for themselves if they want it.
Well, again, yeah. So another example of an author that walks the walk and talks the talk, that is not going to, steer you. And again, it's all about the action. Like I always say that we're going to give the best information that's out there possible. And then it's up to you, like, to decide, what you resonate with, what you don't, but to implement the tools. Because so far.
Action changes everything, right? Without action, it all remains a hope or a wish. And I don't know about you, Julie. I suspect you're like me. I'm not here to hope or wish. I'm here to get results, right?
To get shit done. Well, and I love that you brought up Mel Robbins too, because that was one of the books that I read early on that really shifted me as well. Like that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there are still times that, especially getting up in the morning, I live in Arizona, and, it's now like a little bit darker in the morning. And so like you have the alarm set and you're like, all right, do I really want to get out of bed? It's like, okay, get yourself out of bed and get going. But there's so many things that she talks about in that book that are so critical. And I know she just released another book as well, because I've been getting some emails on her new book also. So.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, I love books. I've always been a bookworm. And thank you again for this opportunity to contribute to your audience and promote to your, to promote your work to my peeps as well. So,
well, you're so welcome. And again, we have collaborated on the book, Stop Waiting, Start Living. It is released on November 17th on Amazon. And so, of course, the whole world's going to know about it. And we're super excited to be collaborating on this. And I'm sure that it will not be the first thing we're collaborating on, because we have that similar mindset. I'm sure you can be looking out for some workshops that Susan and I, we'll do together, in that 40 hours that that we have. So on that note, thank you again, Susan, for being here. Super excited to have you as part of this journey. And again, make sure that you connect with Susan and all of our amazing authors. Their websites have been throughout this broadcast, and SusanGlusica.com. So Susan, have yourself a fantastic, get shit done kind of day.
Thank you. You do the same, Julie.
Thanks. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was Susan Glusica, one of our amazing authors that is going to be part of our collaboration book. Now, my next author that is a dear, dear friend of mine, I am not sure is going to be able to join us today. Unfortunately, she got really, really sick this week. Talk about the universe providing her some amazing timing. I think she was probably attempting to take too much on, and it was the universe's way of slowing her down. So I will just kind of touch upon a little bit about her. So I'm going to put her website up, and her name is Colleen Biggs. Now, many of you may know Colleen, and if I see that she happens to jump on, well, of course, I'm going to incorporate her on this. But I wanted to give her some kudos, because if it wasn't for Colleen, I'm not sure that I would also be doing this book. So I met Colleen a little over a year ago, actually now coming up on 2 years, and we were at a networking event together. And we were not at the networking event. We did not actually meet in person. But here's what Colleen did. Colleen went ahead, and my contact information was in a giveaway bag. She followed up with me. Here's one of my tips, and Colleen will tell you the same thing. The fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. So she reached out to me. I was so impressed, because I'm usually the first one reaching out with people. And she offered, like, hey, you want to do lunch? I said, absolutely, because I love meeting amazing people to add to my tribe. Well, little did I know that she would have this phenomenal tribe that I would soon be part of. So Colleen is the founder of an organization called Lead Up for Women. Now, this is her personal website that I have on here, ColleenBiggs.net, but you can also find her at leadupforwomen.com. Exactly how it says. In fact, if I can multitask, I will put up that website as well. So Lead Up for Women started a little over 3 years ago when she left corporate America. She was doing so much for corporate America that she figured, she was tired of how she was kind of being treated. And she decided that she could do something better for women. And she had helped hundreds of businesses grow in her corporate position. So I'm going to see if I can add this banner. Woohoo! Let me see if that worked. Leadupforwomen.com. Look at that. I'm multitasking. Anyway, so she left corporate America. She started Lead Up for Women a little over 3 years ago. And what is Lead Up for Women? It is an opportunity for women to connect and collaborate and to be seen, be heard, and be visible. So when we are women and we are out there building our businesses, we've been somewhat taught not to really promote ourselves, not to be out there living loud. I'm a big one for living loud. And so Colleen has created a platform for people to join her membership and to do exactly that. Be seen, be heard, be visible. And that's what I love about Colleen. And she is all about helping women and individuals to be able to collaborate. She does attract smart men who know that they really want to be around amazing women. However, the majority of all of her groups are around women. She does sanctuary. She publishes a magazine. She has a podcast. She does every Tuesday something called Teaching Tuesday, where members of her community are able to teach on something that they're passionate about. Well, what did Julie Jones teach about? Well, I taught about get shit done and some of my time productivity hacks that I like to share with individuals. So Colleen, after we met, I knew that I wanted her in my life. I jumped on board with a sanctuary that she was doing just a few weeks later. And boy, did that cause me to shift and grow. She actually has her next upcoming sanctuary coming up in February. And you can find out more about that at leadupforwomen.com. But Colleen Biggs is one of those individuals that you really want to connect with. And once I found her, I did not want her to leave my life. And of course she wasn't going to, because we had the same energy, we had the same mindset. So Colleen and I decided to work together in the arena of, she's my coach. See, I'm a coach, but all great coaches have coaches themselves. Because again, walk the walk, talk the talk, which has been the theme that we have been talking about throughout this entire Authors Summit. So Colleen is my coach. We work together on a weekly basis. We mastermind, we do all kinds of things together. And now, lo and behold, I'm also one of her facilitators for her sanctuary. But it was in working with Colleen this year that I look over to the left here, because I have a running list of the things that my targets, as Wendy talked about, that I wanted to accomplish in 2021. And the one that really has been screaming out to me this entire year is to write a book around personal development. And what better way to do that than to go ahead and face the fear and do it anyway, and take the leap of faith and write a book. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. For myself and for all of the authors, writing a book is putting your most vulnerable, authentic self out there, because you're sharing with the world who you are and what you bring to the party. Now, Colleen's chapter is Start Before You're Ready, and I'm super excited for what she shares in that chapter. I'm not going to give it away. Of course, what do we want you to do? We want you to go ahead and download the book on November 17th on Amazon. Of course, we will have links all over the place, and that you'll be able to download the book. And again, it's going to be very much like a handbook, where each author has questions at the end of the chapter for you to reflect on. Colleen is the master of being able to help you to reflect and figure things out on what direction you are going. I look back, I started working with Colleen in December of 2020, and now here it is almost a year later. And honestly, my life looks nothing the same like it did a year ago, because of everything that I was able to incorporate thanks to Colleen. So I too always have a special offer for individuals. And so I'm going to take a little bit of this time to just go ahead and show you my website as well, which is juliejones.biz. So on there, you are able to go ahead and connect with me for a 30-minute free discovery session, where I can help you around a particular, issue. We can chat, we can see if we vibrate, all those different kinds of things when it comes to you and what you want to get done. So I see my next author jumped on, and I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, because I don't want to run too far ahead, because then the final author will be like, hey, what the heck just happened? Like, did I miss my opportunity or what? So let me give you a little teaching tip on something that I love to share with individuals, and probably why I just went ahead and faced the fear and wrote the book. So here's one of my life hacks that I always love to share with people. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Sometimes we are in that waiting game, and that's hence the reason Stop Waiting, Start Living. We're waiting for the perfect time. We're waiting for the perfect opportunity. We're waiting for this. We're waiting for that. And I'm here to tell you that nobody is on their deathbed regretting what they did do. They're regretting what they didn't get done. So just go for it. That's my biggest thing. Like, if I had waited for everything to be super perfect, the book would never get done. One of the coaching tips that I was given about anybody who's doing their first book is that if you look back at your book and you're kind of like, well, that could have been better. Yeah, it's a learning experience. So for anybody that's out there that's considering or thinking about, do I need to write a book? Yes. Say yes to opportunities. Again, I am so grateful for every single author who said yes to the opportunity to be part of this collaboration project. See, we're not designed to do things alone. It took me a long time to realize that I don't want to be a Lone Ranger. How many of you, like, sometimes are out there and people ask you if you can help, they can help you or they can support you. And you're like, no, I got it. Thank you very much. That doesn't work. See, because you're taking away the opportunity for them to give to you. It's an exchange of energy, as we've talked about throughout this entire broadcast, is that we give, but you have to be open to receive as well. And so, again, I have surrounded myself with an amazing tribe. If you haven't found your amazing tribe yet, or you're struggling to make those connections, again, go to leadupforwomen.com. Now, there's some other great opportunities on there besides what I've talked about that Colleen has to offer. So Colleen offers this idea of community. We all need community. Today, she had a lunch and learn. So the lunch and learn is the first Thursday of every month, and that's kind of a national lunch and learn where it's on Zoom. You can jump on, get a little bit of training, but more importantly, connect and collaborate with other women. I happen to be doing the Arizona chapter of Lead Up for Women because that's where I live here in Arizona. And Colleen asked me to go ahead and launch a local chapter. There's also a local chapter being launched or is launched in Illinois. There's one in Canada, and there's some other areas that are being launched as well. So I have coming up on November 9th from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Arizona time. Now, I think we're moving to Mountain Standard Time because daylight savings time is on Sunday. You have to realize Arizona doesn't go by like the daylight savings rules. We just stay on the same time all year round. But you can go to leadupforwomen.com and go and find the lunch and learns. And for no cost to you, you can come and check us out. And it doesn't matter whether you're in Arizona or not. Like, it's on Zoom. So be part and connect and collaborate with amazing women. We do some masterminding. We do some brainstorming. You'll learn a little bit about how to set yourself up successfully for 2022. That's a mouthful. I cannot believe that we are talking about 2022. In fact, I'm full transparency. I'm 53 years old this year. I look great for 53 and I know it, right? So anyway, but I remember when I was 18, okay? And I was thinking about the year 2000 because, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so far off. I'm going to be 32 years old. Holy cow. Now, like 22 years has passed. Almost 22 years has passed that point. And my parents and my grandparents were absolutely right. The older you get, the faster time goes. And it slows down and waits for no one. So I encourage you, if you haven't gotten the hint already, and I'm very passionate about people living their best life now. Why? I will share with you because a lot of the other authors have shared very vulnerably today, is that I'm a former police officer. I was a police officer for 10 years in the state of Wisconsin, and I saw how quickly life can change. Here today, gone tomorrow. And then in my own life personally, my mom passed away 17 years ago at the age of 59 from early onset Alzheimer's. Now, no, she never expected that. My parents planned to have this long retirement. Luckily my dad retired at 55 and she retired at 52, and they had some time together. But again, there was no guarantee. And then, of course, just 2 years ago, at the young age of 78, my father passed away. Again, I expected him to be around forever. And I'm grateful for the relationship we had up to that point. So many of those things happen every day to each and every one of us. None of us gets away. I know that Susan in our last broadcast here talked about that the one inevitable thing is death. You know, we're all going to face it and we're all going to be there at some point. But how do you maximize your time? How are you most productive with your time, with what you have? I believe that for all of us, I don't know why I believe there's a number on the back of our head, but it's there. And you don't know when that point is going to come. So, you know, whether it's connecting with Colleen and, you know, finding her tribe of people and making the most of it, connecting with me and the tribe that I'm establishing here in Arizona. It's all about living in the moment and living your best life now. So if I can help you with any of that, please again connect with me, juliejones.biz. There is what I call a discovery session, and you can connect with me for 30 minutes. And we, of course, will help you and support you. I will, to live your best life now. So I've been blathering on. Of course, I'm going to throw up one more time, ColleenBiggs.net. You know, for all of us who are on, she has been extremely, extremely sick this week. And so I really wish her a lot of love and light that she is on the road to recovery. And I know how disappointed that she is not here today. I will tell you, I know Colleen well enough. And if she even had like a little bit of energy, she would have been on today. But I know that this entire week she has had to cancel everything off of her calendar and focus in on her health. And sometimes that's what we just need to do. What happens? You know, life doesn't happen to us. It happens for us. And sometimes it's just a reminder that we all need to slow down and focus in on our health, which is going to bring me up for our next author, who I'm so grateful jumped on early. I don't know if she's been watching the broadcast live and saw that Colleen was not able to be here with us. But I'm going to bring in our next author. So hold on just a second. All this great technology. So there she is. Woohoo! Angie, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Julie? This has been such a great morning. I've so enjoyed hearing everybody speak.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you've been able to join us and recognize that with Colleen not coming on, that you jumped on a little bit early. And so let me just talk about Angie a little bit before I turn it over to her. So Angie has the distinct, what's the word I'm looking for? The distinction. That's just the word I'm looking for. The distinction of when I put it out to everybody and said, okay, who would like to collaborate with me? She was the first author to jump on board and say, yes, let me join you and let me share my story. And I am just grateful because, again, when you've got that first person that jumps on board with what you think could be a crazy idea and they don't see that it's so crazy, like it just gives you all the confidence and all like the love in the world to be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is going to happen. So Angie is such a dear friend, and as all my authors are. I've talked about that, like attracts like. So Angie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Angie Nicolucci, her website is there so that you can connect with her. But Angie, let's talk a little bit about who you are, what is your journey, and what brings you here today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Julie, for doing this project. And I don't think it's a crazy idea at all. And I'll tell you what, our crazies keep us from going insane, right? So we all get to embrace a little bit of crazy here and now, and it just keeps us thriving and keeps us interesting, right? I'm just so thrilled to be a part of this project. For me, my journey has been, and you'll learn more about this when you all download and purchase the book on the 17th, which I'm really excited about. But really, my journey has been one of being in corporate. You know, I had this mindset of, you you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a good job, and you're in that job for life, doing the best you can. And then one day, if you're lucky, maybe you have a pension and you retire. And then, I don't know, you sit on your cute porch in some rocking chairs, sipping lemonade with your golden retriever. I mean, that was kind of the vision. And you know what? As I started getting deeper and deeper into the level of commitment, that the level of myself that I was giving to this career, I was like, whoa. I think our one of our previous speakers said they were having a legacy crisis. Is that the term she used? I was having an authenticity crisis. I was like, wow, this is not me. So that's really what I share in my journey of that. It's a journey of courage. It's a journey of stop waiting and start living, which is why I was so attracted to be a part of this, because I'm like, I have a story to tell. And I would venture to guess that of all the people watching this today, and of all the people that read the book, I'm not the only person that's been in a corporate job for over 20 years, unhappy about it. We also spoke a lot earlier on the conference. Everyone has been talking about gratitude. And I want to be really clear that I'm so incredibly grateful for the time that I spent in corporate, the tools I have learned and how I'm able to apply them to my new business. I'm grateful every day for those experiences that I had. Yeah. But, when I decided to leave, I'm like, what do I want to do? What's my dream? Where do I want to find myself? And my career was in corporate side of healthcare. And I've always valued health and well-being and how precious it is. And so as I had faced some of my own health issues, mostly stemming from stress and, a chaotic, overcommitted lifestyle, I was like, wow, I don't want to be one of those people that pops a pill to figure out the problem. And so I really started diving into the fundamentals of health in order really to heal myself. And that's when I decided that starting my own health coaching practice would be something that I'm so passionate about. And so here I am, the sleep CEO, because sleep is one of those fundamental pillars to our health. And I've fallen in love with it.
I got to say, I love Sleep CEO. Like that's just like got such a great, ring to it. And I know that like you've probably had your own journey around sleep, and that that brings you to where you are today. Would you like to share anything about like how? And I think it's really important, like how it affected you. Like, let me just like get one train of thought, but like how you've seen that sleep impacts other people, like when you're not sleeping, because that's really a big component that people just don't often think about.
Yeah. So in terms of how sleep affects, well, first of all, I think we all know when we get a bad night's sleep, we feel it. We feel it in our bones. We feel it in our emotions, our mind. I often think that when someone's yelling at somebody that's just doing their job, like, you're in the line at the grocery store and someone's wearing the cranky pants, or someone's cutting you off in traffic or whatever, I'm like, oh, they just need to go home and take a nap. Because really, it all starts from there. When we have that great night's sleep, we wake up and we feel refreshed, and our body has had the opportunity to go in and clean house a little bit and set us up for that really great day of all the things to come. But when we don't get that good night's sleep, we're working on recycled parts and recycled energy. And so that's when, we can just start listing things off. That's when we have the arguments with, say, our partner or our children about little things that don't matter, like, oh, you didn't start the coffee at 7:00 in the morning. You started it at 7:10, and I want my coffee at 7, right? So like in the grand scheme of things, not that important. But when we don't have that great night's sleep, it can seem like the world,
Well, absolutely, because like I've been there, and I think when I was younger, like you think you can catch up on it, right? Or that you think, oh, I don't really need that much, and now I know, okay, and it probably started from as a baby on, because I remember my mom sharing a story with me. I was her first child, right? And she was so excited that she had me, and she said I was like that baby that slept all the time. And so like, she'd be like standing there, she would say like watching over me in the crib, like, when are you going to wake up, so that she could like interact, with her first child and all that kind of stuff. And I think that carries today, because I absolutely love, like to sleep and get my sleep. And I'm one of those that really notices if I'm not getting the good 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because if I get anything less, I feel it all day long.
Yeah, and so do I. I mean, even sleep coaches have those nights where we don't sleep well. But my journey really around that, it stems so much from my story of being in a position of, while grateful for the income and the experience, not being happy. And so then that opens the gateway to stress and anxiety about getting up and having to participate in something that my heart just wasn't in. And so, for me, it shows up, in so many ways, from like not being able to fall asleep within minutes, like literally being that person that would lay in bed for hours, just wishing I could fall asleep, and then getting more and more aggravated and frustrated as the time goes by, or maybe I'd fall asleep, but I wasn't sleeping deeply. And so, God bless him, my husband might be snoring and it would just wake me up. And then I'd be like, oh, great. Now here I go again, not sleeping again, and then all the judgments and all the things that come in with that. And I started seeing things with my health that just weren't right, like low energy and fatigue through the day, and that stress, anxiety, some depression, just not having the time to like get outside and enjoy the sun and get the fresh air that now I know all of our bodies need, that sunshine and that fresh air to help us sleep better at night, so all of this kind of fed into my own healing journey. And when I cracked the code to sleep, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm able to quiet my thoughts. I'm able to fall asleep within minutes of going to bed. And even at night, I still do wake up occasionally at night. That's normal, by the way, for anybody that's watching. It's totally normal for adults to wake up once or twice during the night. We have this really beautiful dance. It's the cyclical variation of our depths of sleep, different stages of sleep. And when we reach those higher, lighter stages of sleep, it's super natural to wake up because we're in a lighter stage of sleep. But now I know how to quiet the thoughts, catch the thoughts, quiet the thoughts, and just go back to sleep.
Well, and one of the things that comes to mind, and I know that you've talked a little bit about this, and maybe this is the number one thing that you want to address with, people getting serious about sleep. But how is it that you feel, again, like there's like a lot of positives about technology, but then like I also feel like technology can be sometimes the bane of my existence. So like do you find, or have like your experience, do you think that the more reliant that we've been on technology, that's contributing to a lot more sleep issues? And is your number one thing to address around technology? So let me let you answer those questions.
Yeah, well, as part of my journey after left my corporate career, I did go through several certifications. One of those being a building biologist. And what a building biologist does is really understands the health of the home, the health of the built environment. So if we think about skin, so we have our first skin, our clothing is our second skin, and our homes, our offices, our buildings are our third skin. So the things in those environments can affect the health of the humans within. And so technology these days, it is pervasive. It's everywhere. From, you know, the cell phone in your pocket to now many people, you know, implementing what's called a smart home, right? So technology is there. One of the biggest disruptors of sleep is, unfortunately, technology. And it's as simple as this little guy right here, which is a light bulb. And when we are exposed to artificial light after sunset, it disrupts our circadian rhythm. So let's just think even just 200 years ago. I mean, this is so new, Julie. Just 200 years ago, we were kind of living and sleeping by the sun. When the sun would come up, we'd wake up, we'd, be in the farms, or we'd be, riding the horses or doing whatever it was that we were doing before we had, our Tesla or whatever we're crawling in to drive the next day. It's just changed so dramatically in the past 200 years, which is super cool. And blue and green light, before the invention of the light bulb, it didn't really exist after sunset, right? And so when we get into the science of what's going on, we have a gland in our brain. It's called the pineal gland, and it senses cues from light. And so in the daytime, when we have the natural sunlight coming through, it's giving us a signal. It's giving us a message. It's directing the traffic of our hormones. It's directing the traffic of our neurotransmitters to say, hey, it's time to wake up and do great things. Like, let's get excited. Let's go conquer the world, So we get up, we have this hormone called cortisol that starts to wake us up and gets us ready to go seize the day, right? And then at night, when the sun sets, a different cue comes in and we start to get different messages, right? And the message that comes in is, okay, it's time to sleep. That pineal gland has been busy storing and creating something called melatonin, which is another hormone. A lot of people have probably heard of that one. But that melatonin is released and it helps us to start to fall asleep. What's interesting is that in the presence of blue and green light, that melatonin doesn't get released. And so now it takes about 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, for it to fully release into the body, enough to help you fall asleep. So if you're staring at your phone with that really bright blue and green light, guess what's not happening? We're not releasing melatonin. And so then we turn the lights up and we lay there for an hour and a half or so trying to fall asleep, because we're so stimulated from this thing that really, again, 200 years ago didn't exist.
Well, you know what I find really interesting about that is, because there's a lot of truth to, I know there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, because as the sun, rises in the morning later and later and later, it's like I want to get up later and later and later. It's like I've noticed that about myself, like during the summer, the sun gets up pretty early. And as the sun's getting up, like I'm getting up, like I'm almost one of those people, like, yeah, sun's up, I'm up. And then so as it gets to the point of like 7:30 before the sun's coming up, like, I don't find that I want to get up any earlier. And I have some meetings that start early in the morning. So I'm like, dang it. Like, nothing worse than having to drive to a meeting when it's still dark in the morning.
Right. I really hear you. Yeah. And that's part of the work that I do, Julie, is to support people in rebalancing their circadian rhythm with the fact that we live in a modern world, right? Not everybody has the luxury to spend the first hour and a half outside watching the sunrise. They don't, right? We've got kids we have to take to school. We've got meetings that start at 7 a.m. I mean, I can remember for years, I used to live in Philadelphia in the Northeast, and I would get up and go into my office, which was in a sea of cubicles with no window, and spend the entire day in there, arriving when it was dark and then leaving and it was dark, and I wouldn't see the sun. I had to physically get up and walk 10 minutes out of this massive office building just to see sunlight during the day. And so I get it. And so what are some of the things, that we can do to start to, incorporate these inherent human practices, right? Of like, our circadian rhythm has been around since humans. That's part of how we came to be, right? And so just ignoring it, that's when we start to see health problems go wrong. So there are lots of tips and tricks and kind of biohacks. That's a big term that's out there right now that we can incorporate in our homes, in our offices, different habits that we can incorporate that can help us reclaim the circadian balance that we need so that we can start to sleep better. And when we sleep, that's when the body does, again, its restoration and repair that I referenced earlier. So that's what I love to do, is like help busy adults realize that they don't have to like go in a tent in the middle of nowhere and cut off all technology, that we can come into concert with all of this and reclaim our health and reclaim our sleep.
Right. Well, and I think that, and I've seen more and more people too, like really, like announcing that they're doing these technology breaks, and and I think the more that sometimes you do break away from the technology, the easier it is to stay away or to not be on it as much. Because there are times where I'm like, on, all the social media sites, doing all those kinds of things. I mean, we would not be able to do this broadcast today if it wasn't for technology, right? So there are some really great positive things that have happened, but there's a lot of like addictive behavior behind the the technology and everything as well too. And that's really something to be cognizant of. And if you are having trouble sleeping and, any other kind of issues, that, to connect with you and to be able to be like, hey, what is it? Because technology is just one thing. It's like there's like probably a whole slew of things, that can support people as, as well. So, you have a light diet, environment, lifestyle approach. So talk a little bit about like how you came up with that. And like, it's just, like I said, we're not just looking at technology would probably fall under lifestyle or environment. And then like, so, but what else, like, do you all look at as the sleep CEO when you're supporting people?
Well, Julie, one thing that I think we can all appreciate that we all have in common is stress, right? And so really understanding like what are the sources of stress. And my definition of stress is really when outer meets inner. That's it. It's the calibration of when outer meets inner. So whether it's a personality that we're dealing with, or a deadline that we're dealing with, a money issue, a food that we're eating, a blue light source after sunset, it's all stress. So it's all about how can we understand and start to reduce stress, right? And so first we look at light, and light is first because, as I've already mentioned, it is absolutely critical. It's fundamental. It's our circadian rhythms. It drives all of our neurotransmitters, all of our hormones. It tells our bodies what we're supposed to be doing when. It's our instruction manual. So light is absolutely important. Diet, which is kind of a cringy word, oh, don't put me on a diet, that's not really what it's about, but it's more about understanding. So another one of my journeys after leaving corporate was to become a certified functional nutrition counselor. And so it's really understanding food choice. What are the qualities of foods that we're eating that help us build those neurotransmitters to be able to sleep better? So here's a real brief example. We've probably all heard of tryptophan. I'll throw this one out there simply because it's Thanksgiving month, right? And we associate tryptophan with turkey, and then we all take a big nap. And, not to burst anyone's bubble, but honestly, the sleepiness after the Thanksgiving meal is typically because we've just eaten a ton. So we just need to take a nap. But tryptophan is an essential amino acid that our bodies cannot make naturally. So we need to get it from food. And when we then go outside into natural sunlight, so here's our light piece coming back in, sunlight is absorbed by our bodies, and it has a chemical reaction with tryptophan to create something called serotonin. And serotonin is our happy, right? It's our get shit done. It's our thing that like is our driver, our motivator. We feel really good about it. And then when serotonin is metabolized by the body, the byproduct is melatonin, and melatonin is what helps us fall asleep. So you can see now, if we go back to diet or food choice, like if you're not getting any tryptophan in your diet, you're not getting outside, you might be depressed or anxious or not have a lot of willpower or not have a lot of happy, and I'm not able to get shit done, and then you don't have what it takes to fall asleep. So that's like an example of like where the diet and light come into play. You nailed it with lumping technology in with environment, just what are the things in our environment that could be contributing to poor sleep. And then lifestyle. It's all about stress management, coming up with different cues in our environment and rituals to help support us having really great sleep hygiene.
Well, and I have to say that again, like we've talked about throughout this entire broadcast about common themes, and we talked about the whole idea of gratitude. But the other common theme that has been present throughout this broadcast, as well as my morning started off just seeing some posts as well, is around the idea of stress. And it's funny because sometimes you're just not able to get away from it. And I just really, I'm very proactive about my health. And that's why I love what you do, Angie, because it's not about, with what you do, it's not about, like masking, what is happening. It's about finding the root cause and, and how you can support people around that. And so I did some baseline testing around health with a friend of mine. And part of that, that testing involved looking at stress. Now, based on how I answer, I don't feel like I'm under stress. That's not what my body is saying. My body is saying that, like I have like increased cortisol, like when I wake up in the morning or before I go to bed at night, as well as my, I think it's my calcium and I think magnesium are like really high. And like my phosphate and like something else are really low. And like if they were more in balance, and you probably know this, and like that would be an indicator that I don't have stress in my body, but every indication is that I do. So it's like, so as much as sometimes people are like, no, I don't have any stress, like it's there, it's present. Sometimes just life is stress.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's like, so any tips around like, something simple that you kind of like help people around? Like, I know we all know deep breathing, but is there anything else that you're a big fan of around the whole stress issue?
Yeah. So I love that you shared that, Julie, because again, my definition is so broad because stress is so broad. It's when inner meets outer, or I'm sorry, when outer meets inner, right? So you may have just like this really peaceful, beautiful, amazing life, and there could be something else going on that's causing physical stress in the body, right? So, just tips to reduce stress. I mean, always having some type of mindfulness, process, whether it's deep breathing, meditation. One of my favorite things is just to go outside and stand barefoot in the grass. If you have grass, we're in Arizona. Plastic grass doesn't count. We have a lot of plastic grass in Arizona. But if you can find a patch of dirt, it's just something to really connect with the earth. It can just be so rejuvenating to connect with that natural electromagnetic field that comes from the earth. That's a huge stress reliever. But I think really one of the biggest keys is to take a breath and face our fears, like really understand what is it as big as we really think it is? Because I think sometimes when we keep that source of stress or that fear up here in our minds, it can get so much bigger than it really is. So like I had just a brief example. I was working with one of my clients the other day, and he was sharing, oh my gosh, I have 16 hours worth of work to do and I have 8 hours to do it in. And so we went through this exercise of really like writing everything down and getting it out of the head and assigning time to it and all of that. And when he finished, he had an hour and a half worth of work that he really could do. So we went from 16 hours to an hour and a half, right? So it's so empowering to just get it out of our heads and become one with it and acknowledge it and tackle it and then sleep, because it's not 16 hours anymore. It's just an hour and a half, and we can knock it out and we can get a great night's sleep.
Yeah, sometimes it is so key to do that brain dump. And what came to mind when you were talking about like standing barefoot, in the ground to reconnect, because I love that, to do that like in the sand or the water. I'm such a water girl, right? But all I could think about was when you were sharing that, like, yeah, don't stand on the rocks that we have out here, because it's painful to the feet. Like every time I walk outside and I'm barefoot and I have to walk across the rocks, I'm like, ow, ow, ow. It's like, or when it's 120 outside and like you walk on the hot concrete, don't do that. Don't do that at that point either.
Yeah.
So Angie, I know the best way for people to probably connect with you is your website, but is there any way else that, like, and what do you have to offer on your website that people can connect with you on?
Absolutely. So when you go to my website, angienicoloucci.com, you'll see buttons all over the place to schedule a complimentary call. When you click on that, it goes right to my calendar. And I offer everybody an hour of complimentary time to talk, because, Julie, we are all unique and we all have different stressors and situations and circumstances. And so my approach is never a one size fits all. So I just view it as incredibly important to give everybody that space to really be heard, so that we can connect and understand, because sleep is that important. So that's how you can connect with me and get right on my calendar, is just go to angienicoloucci.com. I also have a complimentary 7-night sleep tracking journal that you can download. You can either print it or it's a fillable PDF, so you can just use it right there on your device. Although I prefer you print it, because if you're using your device, you got that blue light coming on. So, but anyway, that's also available. And I just invite you to sign up for my community. I'll be launching a course soon that for individuals, because you know what, Julie, we're all so busy, right? And I know you were talking about this earlier. I was like, are you really busy, or are you just, what was the phrase that you used?
Oh, I call it woo busy. Like,
woo busy. Yeah.
Are you woo busy being, just busy to be busy? Because, like for all of us, like that's a standard answer. People ask how you are. Busy. Okay, we're all busy. All right. But are you busy, like being productive busy, or are you just busy saying you are busy?
Well, I want everyone to know that I hear you. And so I've taken all of the work that I do with my one-on-one clients, and I've packaged it into an online on-demand course that is 10 to 15 minute audio and video segments that you can listen to when you're out for your run or driving into the office or whatever you're doing, because we are, we're busy. So I want people to be able to keep their busy if they want it, and also sleep. So that's launching soon. So I invite you to sign up for my community, and you'll get the skinny on that when it launches here.
Well, that is amazing. And for those of you who have been listening in since the start at 11 o'clock, or who may tune in later on and watch the broadcast, because we are currently broadcasting live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The authors have all given you some amazing offers. I mean, Angie's offering her an hour of her time. We've had Wendy offer 45 minutes. Like, everybody has amazing gifts to offer. So make sure that you connect with anyone who is resonating with you. Because I assure you that my tribe of women that are part of this book and who have contributed to this this book, like attracts like, and that we're all in this to support everybody to really, truly live their best life now. And so, again, Angie and I, along with all the other authors that have been on here today, have collaborated to produce the book, Stop Waiting, Start Living, which I know I've said numerous times, but I won't say it enough, is that it is going to be available as a download on November 17th on Amazon. And we truly appreciate everybody's support in, making this a bestseller, because we know, and in fact, we know it's going to be an international bestseller, don't we, Angie?
Absolutely. I'm so excited for it. I want everybody to download this book on the 17th, because the stories of the women that we've heard so far have been absolutely incredible. Julie is an inspiration in and of herself. If you're just getting to know Julie, I mean, she's just incredible. And I mean, we're all so heartfelt and passionate about what we do. And, I want people to get out there and stop waiting and start living. I really do. And I was so drawn to be a part of this, because it's like, wow, I took the leap, but I'm also confident I couldn't have taken the leap as well as I did if my health was poor, and sleep is absolutely fundamental to that. So, I really want to support anybody that needs help. Reach out to me. I will make the time, because sleep is that important. Yeah, Julie, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much again, Angie, for being with us here today, and for being on early, because and I see my next author is waiting in the wings as well. It just is so great when everybody shows up for themselves, and for the audience. Because again, we mentioned that Colleen, who was in the middle of the broadcast, is not feeling up to par, and so I just keep telling everybody, send some really great energy out to her. Really that whole intention and sending somebody white light or healing energy is really going to make a difference for her. So, Angie, again, thank you so much for being on the Author Summit today. It's an honor to have you as part of the collaboration. And I'm sure that I will see you later on this week. So have yourself an amazing, sleep-filled, restful day, whatever that may look like.
Thank you so much, Julie.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon. All right. So that was Angie Nicolucci, and I am super excited. I'm just going to put up the next author, and I'm going to add her to the stream. So here she is, a good friend, our final author that we get to meet today, that is part of the collaboration book, Stop Waiting, Start Living. And so Lisa, yay, you're here. Welcome.
I am so excited. And I just want to say, I'm not a fan of live, and now we're like broadcast, but I'm just like thinking it's you and me sharing a few of our favorite things with some friends. But I'm so excited about it. Like, my excitement is bigger than my fear, which is like, wow, kind of awesome. So thank you for having me, and thank you for calling me an author, because as a graphic designer, branding person, author is like a new thing for me. And I just could not be happier or more comfortable to be in the presence of the awesomeness of the others in the book. Like, I'm just so honored and thankful to be here. So thank you.
Well, and again, people, if you've been paying attention, what is the theme? Gratitude. Gratitude. And it really is about gratitude and collaboration. And, all my authors, I give them so much credit. And, you said an important thing, Lisa, that maybe you never saw author as part of like a description of you. Yet, when I offered you the opportunity, you jumped on board and you said yes. So where was the shift? Like, where would you say the shift was from, okay, I'm not so sure that this is what I really want to do, to, yes, I'm taking the bull by the horns?
So to be candidly honest, I had thought of writing a book for a very long time, and I didn't know where to begin. And I'm maybe not so good at doing things for me as I am for others. So the idea that this is a compilation book, I feel like was a great way for me to not only be surrounded by like-minded people and an awesome support group at that, but a great way to like get my toe in the water, if you will, without like drowning in the ocean like I was in it all by myself. So the support of everyone in the book has just truly been life-changing. So thankful, truly so thankful.
Well, and that is fabulous to hear, because again, I talked a little bit before on the segment that I was, referring to Colleen, is that for so many people, and it doesn't just apply to women, it applies to men as well. This whole idea of like the Lone Ranger, like thinking that we have to do everything by ourselves, or that if it's going to get done right, it has to be done, through me, by me, whatever it is. And there's so much power in collaboration and cooperation, and that we can get more done together when we have that mindset of collaboration versus competition. And you just you really spoke to that right now. And I just find it, as I'm sure you find it, interesting, and thank you for sharing your experience, that these are all like-minded individuals and that there's so much commonality between all of us.
Yeah, I think, we're so many times we think we have to go it alone, or maybe we don't know how to ask for help, or we don't maybe want to burden others. But I think just when you have people coming together that really support each other, that what is it? There's a famous quote actually today in my BNI meeting. It was like, if you want to go far, go fast. But if you want to something about go the long haul or whatever, go together. I totally messed that up. But it just goes to show, like, we're just better together, right? We're designed to be together. And I think, like you said, it's like it affects men and women. It's not just women. I actually think that men struggle more to have a tribe than women, because we're just kind of nurturers by nature. But yeah, really, really thankful for the group. And actually, when you had extended the invitation to me to be part of this book, I was going to write about something different. And then I found out about the chapter of the book and the title, and I was like, oh my gosh, what I was going to write wasn't even fits this. And now what am I going to write about it? And I just thought about, well, what do I share? What have I shared with friends and family and strangers over and over and over again? And maybe I just write about that. And so it was kind of fun. It wasn't like, I don't know. I was very comfortable, oddly comfortable, like being outside the comfort zone. So.
Well, good. Well, then that's just the step to continue to do that more. Because the more that, we talk about stepping out of your comfort zone, things get less and less sometimes scary. Don't get me wrong. Like every time you step out, or you're facing something, I still get the butterflies in my stomach. I still get the, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, how is this going to look? How is this going to work? And then I just take a deep breath and I'm like, go for it. And, there's like some key things that you said in there, because of the fact that you wrote on something different than you thought you would be called to do. And you wrote your chapter pretty quickly. And so like, that just means to me that you've got some other books, within you. So this is probably just the first step in many to being known as Lisa Q author, besides Lisa Q design.
Well, I've had a few books on the brain for a while, but in today's technology, there's self-publishing, and now there's Kindle, and there's online and Amazon, all those things make it a little bit easier. But it's really the surrounding yourself with the support system that I think changes everything, right? Whether
Right.
we're going through a challenging thing at the office or in our personal life or what have you. Like if you have a tribe, or surround yourself with people like-minded or what have you. I think there's just a lot of strength in that, a lot of power, a lot of, I don't know, like I wake up every morning and I'm grateful for my, 3-5 things. But if I'm surrounding myself with 5 others and I have it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's good stuff in a nutshell.
It is good stuff. And so here's the other gift that like Lisa has brought to, this collaboration project. Hence the reason LisaQDesign.com is, how you can, connect with her, is that not only is she a contributing author, but she does have a background in marketing and design, and, is the inspiration behind, creating the cover. So, and I know this isn't the first cover that you've created. So talk a little bit about that, Lisa, like how, like you get the vision and how you've supported other people, because you've done other people's book covers as well.
Yes. And that's the irony of it, right? I'm doing books for others, but I'm not doing it for myself. There's an underlying tone there I'm working on. Yes. So I'm actually, I guess it was 2015. So a few years ago now, I had a client that is a land developer, and he very experienced in his field, wanted to publish a book, was going to self-publish it. And then we worked on some book covers, and I ended up doing the book cover and the contents and the whole 9 yards. And I just love it because it's like bringing somebody else's dream to life. And I like getting inside your head, and helping you just take your brand messaging, if you will, like on this, like you had an idea, and I try to just go in your head and bring them out and show you a few ideas, and then we pick one. I actually think that's why I said yes to writing the book. Is I have, for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, enjoyed helping others bring their vision to life and their brand and their goals, and just really being passionate about it. And so then I thought, you know what, you should probably just say yes to yourself one time. And not to say that I haven't said yes to me before, but this is like what do they say? Jump and the leap will appear, and the net will appear, or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. So Lisa Q, author. Well, kind of makes me feel like I should start writing at the end of this broadcast.
Well, yeah, you might have to look for that domain name, right?
Yeah, right. I am a domain junkie, so I have a few. Funny enough, on domains years ago, I secured the domain Candidly Q, because my last name is Quirin, but everybody knows me as Lisa Q, and has for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. And but I did the Candidly Q because I would always have these little quirky ways of thinking of things or saying things, and I was going to make a t-shirt line and all this other stuff, and I never did, but I have the domain. So actually in the book, the freebies that I'm going to download, I'm going to put on the Candidly Q site, which is, under production right now, because I'm doing something for others before I'm doing mine, but it will be done by launch day.
Well, and so talk a little bit about your background, because you've been in this industry for how long? And and it's been quite the unique journey, because it takes a special person to be able to see other people's vision and be able to put that into life. So talk a little bit about how long you have been in design, and the journey along the way.
So I graduated, I'm going to date myself here. So I graduated in 85. And I say that because in the 80s, your counselor was advising you to be a doctor, a nurse, a school teacher. There was no graphic design. There certainly wasn't web design or branding or any of those things. And I had worked in retail at the time, which is how I actually became Lisa Q, because at Christmas they hire extra help, and there was a Lisa G, and there was Lisa Q. I've been Lisa Q ever since. But there was a girl that was working with us, and she was going to this art school. And I was like, ooh, what's that? Tell me more. Because, ASU now has an amazing art school, but they didn't in the early 90s. It was non-existent. And so young and naive, I, signed up and went to art school that didn't really have a good reputation. But I went and I learned of the career, and I was blessed to work with a lot of amazing people on really diverse projects along the way. And so I worked at a printer, I worked at a advertising agency, and then I worked at a design studio. And I was young, so I was fearless, and I thought I knew everything, because when you're young, you do. And I didn't have a mortgage or children, so I was like, I'm gonna start my own business. And my college roommate at the time, well, she was in college, but she wasn't the most supportive. She was a little freaked out about it. But it worked out, and I've been independent ever since. I have been very, very, very blessed to have worked on a very diverse industry, if you will. I've done automotive, hospitality, pharmaceutical, you name it, I've done it, big, small, and in between. And I just love it. But one of the things that I think is important, or, critical, or what have you, in my success, is that I I like to learn. I'm like a sponge. I always want to learn new things. And that's just been really important in my field because, now things are online and now there's, I used to have to buy manuals to learn how to do things. And now I can watch YouTube, and now there's, broadcasting things and Zoom and video, and just the creative collaboration is so much greater now. But interestingly enough, as technology improves, deadlines get smaller. so the turnaround time for things gets shorter. But just even with COVID happening, I've designed websites, but I never programmed them. And I'm still not like this massive programmer of like 200 pages and back-end security and all that crazy stuff. I have power partners for that. But when COVID happened and I had some extra time, I was like, oh, I should kind of learn how to do some basics. So I think it's just learning and growing, and with the technology of things is just really important, not just in my industry, but in anyone's, right? Like kind of embracing the unknown and not being fearful of it, but like just taking it by the horns and going with it, I guess.
Right. And yeah, and to your point, because I mean, a couple of thoughts come to mind, like life is a journey, not a destination. And it's all about learning and growing. Like, I think that I've gone and done some personal growth. And, sometimes people want to say that like they're stagnant or stable, right? There isn't. There's either you're growing or you're dying. Like that's just the energy that's out there. So like or you're decaying, whatever you want to say. So like, I mean, as much as you continue to learn and you continue to grow, that just really, will move you forward. And the other thing that, you talked about that like a little bit ago that I really wanted to touch upon. And again, I think that that's a great example of everybody that's collaborated on this book, is that Lisa and I are part of a networking group called BNI, Business Networking International. And the big philosophy behind BNI is giver's gain. So the fact that, she talks a little bit about like always giving, 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 and then it comes back full circle. And it really is important for all of us to first, learn to give to ourselves. Because, I've always said self-care is not selfish. And so it's no reason, Lisa, why we were attracted to this project, but that we're both in BNI together because of that philosophy of giver's gain. And that's not just apparent in that component, but it's apparent in every part of your life. Would you not agree?
Well, I absolutely agree. And I'd actually like to add something interesting to that. Is I think that when it's your core, I mean, it's a BNI core value, but it's like my core. So there isn't a disconnect with the alignment. And I want to just share, I was thinking this morning, like you and I have had amazing conversations. Here we are in an awesome partnership of something I've thought of for a decade and didn't have the tools or the resources to bring to life. And you and I never met in person. Like we met on Zoom. Like that in itself is kind of crazy. And I look at it because, there's so many things. Oh, COVID took away this and COVID took away that. And yeah, COVID did take away a lot of things. But like anything, sometimes things are taken away from you so that you have room for new things, right? And so I look at Zoom, which I'm so not a fan of, but that's how we met, right? And then here we are today in this technology. And I don't know, like everything happens for a reason, and maybe all of that craziness wasn't so much fun, but how awesome to have an outcome of this, right? It's just such a blessing to look. I think sometimes, as I ramble, I think sometimes when we go through opposition, right? On the other side of opposition, there's always a blessing. But sometimes people don't want to go through the opposition. They want to go around it. They want a shortcut. They want to put it under the rug. And I think when you go through opposition, there's always a blessing on the other side. And here we are.
Well, and I agree with you because like I look back and I know a lot of people, there's pros and cons with, COVID, and anybody you talk to is going to have an opinion. And I have been part of Toastmasters, and I did a speech around, the positivity around COVID. Not, of course, we've had, bad things that have happened around it. Yet if you look at some of the things, like, I don't know, maybe people people like to now have this new phrase, toxic positivity. I don't believe I'm toxic positivity.
I haven't heard that one until right this moment, by the way.
Yes. So, but it's like, if you want to say that there's a silver lining in, in everything. And so what COVID did, for me personally, is it caused me to slow down, because there were so many times that I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And when I talk about this idea of woo busy, that was me. Like I was running from thing to thing to thing. And, I've been able to figure out how to work effectively from home and to be, much more efficient. It allowed me, and I've always been highly connected with people, but to even like deepen some of those relationships and to meet new people like you. Because now that you mention it, like, yes, we have yet to meet in person and like give like a big old hug, right? But like we've developed this relationship and friendship, technology or not, that came about because of the way that we ended up having to do business and pivot last year. And that was the big thing for me. Many of you may know, a little bit about my journey. I shared it before, but I've been coaching and speaking in some capacity for 15 years, but always as part of something else. And, so many people have been waiting for me to say, okay, like I'm finally going to put myself out there full force and know what I was called to do, which is the speaking, the coaching, that type of thing. And so I fully launched, the Adventures of Julie Jones LLC and the Get Shit Done coaching platform November of last year. In fact, if I think about the dates, I'm like probably about a week short of it being a full year. And here I am, on this, collaboration with the book. The book is coming out, like all these amazing things, which wouldn't have been possible if like I just hadn't said yes to life and the opportunity that was like knocking me, like right in the head and saying, Julie, go for it. And, that's just what I want to leave with everybody, like today is like, just go for it. Cause Lisa Q went for it. And like, how do you, and so now at this point that you're going for it, like, is there still any apprehension? Are you really excited about the book coming out, or kind of tell everybody where you're at right now?
I'm super excited about it. And it's, I don't want to say alarmingly comfortable, but it's like strangely comfortable being uncomfortable. And I just attribute that to you and the company around you. Like you said yes, but you do such a great job of really bringing others together and helping us collectively say, what do you want to do? And let's do it together. And I'll share that because when I met you, you didn't know I wanted to write a book. Few people know I wanted to write a book. It's not something I go talk about outside of my core girlfriends. But you had invited me to a Facebook group of other like-minded women. And it's like, introduce yourselves and what do you do and what is it that you might like to do? And that's where I mentioned that I would like to write a book. And the support that I got, not just from you, but people that I've never not only not met in person, but not met online or anything. It was just really like, you know what, I really should do this. I'm not in this alone anymore. I have some resources. And I think just saying yes to myself, but saying yes to the people that were there to offer their expertise or their experience to help me bring this to life. Like, how could I ever say no?
Well, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about, surrounding yourself with a tribe. And like sometimes it breaks my heart, like when people are struggling to, to find that connection or to find that tribe of people. And it's been a journey for me as well, because like grade school, high school, that kind of thing, I was bullied, and like I had a few friends, but didn't ever really feel like I had that connection. I always felt like I was out of place. I tended to like maybe hang out with men a little bit more because women scared the hell out of me, quite honestly. I mean, that was like the honest to God truth. I'm like, oh God, like I don't want to put myself in that position again. And it's a journey for all of us. And, for anybody who's, listening or listens to this later, it's like, find your tribe. And, I've talked about that there's so many opportunities, but like, if you're challenged in finding your tribe, reach out to any of the amazing authors that, are on here, because we're all parts of community, and we can introduce you to community, and we welcome you into our community. And so, Lisa is referring to that as I mentioned earlier, am launching the Arizona chapter of Lead Up for Women. And I have a Facebook page where we can all go in there and we can promote and support each other and help each other out. Because it's like, that's what we want to do. It's like, if somebody's struggling, don't struggle alone. We can struggle together and support each other. So Lisa is like, we're finishing up the summit, and I know we're super excited. It's hard to believe, less than 2 weeks, Lisa. 2 weeks, and our project is gonna be out there and for the public to see. Again, it releases on November 17th on Amazon, and we're asking for everybody to support us and download the book, and just really dive into it. It's a handbook that you're going to be able to use to help promote you and help you to grow for 2022. But what else is on your heart, Lisa, that you would really like to share with the audience to know?
One of my favorite things, and I talk about this in the book, one of my simple pleasures in life is just creative collaboration. So I would love to extend to anyone that, creative collaboration, if you want to, talk about your brand, if you have an idea, branding, business, design, if you want to talk about a place that you'd like to travel, and maybe I've been there, I love sharing those joys. So like you were saying, Julie, like, reach out, find a tribe. But like, what I love about the people that you have yourself and that you've introduced me to, it's just a very authentic presence, right? There's nothing mean girlish about it. When you were talking earlier about being bullied, I think, oh my gosh, girls can be so mean sometimes, which usually comes from a sense of insecurity or self-doubt, right? They project meanness on others. But I think, like, in the people that I've met in not just this book, but in the communities that you've introduced me to, there's just a lot of love, right? Love for self, and that enables us to love on others. And so I'm just thankful for that, and I'm available. I'm not as advanced as Angie with the Calendly stuff and all that. I'm still kind of old school, but there is a contact on my lisaqdesign.com if you want to put in your info, and I'll follow up and offer an hour time to collaborate, whether it's business or fun or travel or otherwise. I got you. And I think what's important too is, like, we all have our imperfections, right? It's not like, wait until you're perfect or wait until you're clean or wait until, just show up, just be there, right? Because we've all been messy. Anyway, it's just don't wait. Just, what is the name of the book? Stop waiting and start living, and surround yourself with, I don't know, like-minded people, just people that, I don't know, it's good.
Well, it is. And you hit the nail on the head. It is stop waiting. Like, and you did, so congratulations. You stopped waiting to be an author, and you just said, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's all the authors, and all the people that have collaborated around this book, is that everybody at some point in their life, they stopped waiting, stopped living in fear, and they decided to take the leap of faith and just go for it. And so, Lisa, you don't have to be like, thank you for your generous offer. We don't all need to have that, that Calendly link or whatever the calendar is. And like, if you need to figure it out, Lisa already talked about, gosh, I sometimes even forget about YouTube. Like, if I can't figure out how to do something, to go to YouTube. I remember once having to have a project done, and my mouse died on me. Okay. Or, my mouse died. And I was able to get, God bless Amazon and technology again, and like all this fast delivery. The mouse was able to get delivered to me in like 2 hours, right? But it's pretty hard to install a mouse to use on your computer when the mouse isn't working. Like, it wouldn't connect to the Bluetooth. So I had to YouTube how to use my keyboard as a mouse. And, I almost had to call in my technology guy and everything else, but I'll be damned if I didn't figure it out. And I was so proud of myself at that moment. Like, woohoo, good for me. Like I didn't have to. And again, it's all about collaboration and teamwork. But sometimes my computer guy wasn't going to be able to get there till the next day. And I needed to get that project done that day. So, again, technology, pros and cons. But at that point, I was pretty darn excited for YouTube and being able to figure out how to turn my keyboard into a mouse.
YouTube is, I'm just saying, and I'm a visual learner, so it's so much easier for me. I retain so much better if I watch a video than if I'm reading in the book, instruction figure 1A, 2B. And I redid my office like right before COVID. I guess maybe 6 months before COVID, not knowing COVID was coming. And I was cleaning things out of the bookshelves that were like old school. Like they could have went in the museum for like art books and things from decades ago. But yeah, now it's all on YouTube. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Well, as we are wrapping up this live broadcast with all of our authors, for those of you that have tuned in today and have listened from start to finish, I actually want to recognize Crystal Benjamin, who has been on here since the beginning. And so I really hope that you have gotten, some great value out of today. Tune in again, share this with, people who were not on. It was a live broadcast on not only Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You'll be able to find it, get the information, take advantage of the bonuses and the benefits that the authors have shared with you today. Connect with them, meet with them, get to know who they are. You, of course, will get to know them even more deeply when the book launches on November 17th on Amazon. Of course, Stop Waiting, Start Living. Live Your Best Life Now. The book will be available on Amazon in less than 2 weeks. I know you can hardly wait, and you're anticipating this amazing book because each one of the authors has really put their heart into this project, and you will feel that heart-centeredness. So again, this is Julie Jones with the Adventures of Julie Jones and the Get Shit Done platform. Again, if you need to connect with me, juliejones.biz, connect with me for a 30-minute discovery session as well to see how I can best support you and get you into those tribes that you are looking for. And with immense gratitude, thank you so much for being here today, Lisa. And thank you so much to the entire audience for being here. I love you.